Hello and welcome back, everyone. It's time to continue episode 3 from here on, and I'm just gonna make it short and start it right away if it allows me to. It does. And also make the noise a bit less noisy. It was a bit too loud. Last time we left off with them leaving the ship and having a bit of Ava's backstory. So let's see where we continue from here on. I assume learning more about Ava. And we'll probably stop this time around till the letter is given to Maria. If this happens relatively soon this time. But also just take a lot longer, who knows. Huh? When she left the boat, it seemed to Ava as though she had heard the voice of her young self. No, it hadn't seemed that way. Someone had told her, "Welcome back." After becoming a shameless adult, the voice of her younger self was distant. What am I living for? What can I do to release myself from this obsession? Hideyoshi heard her talking to herself. Hideyoshi held on tightly to Ava's shoulders. His firmness alone told her that there was no need to say any more. Maybe it was because the typhoon was getting closer. The lively cries of the seagulls which usually greeted them when they arrived couldn't be heard at all. Yeah. And don't worry, you'll all be dead when the seagulls cry. Oh, that would have been a way better point to stop. Why did the achievement pop up earlier? I mean, because it's a line, but still. Yeah, okay, I chose the worst time to stop last time. Thought I would just wait for the clock, but no. It's worthless. Oh, okay, we're already at 2 p.m. So 4 more hours till we get the letter, I assume. I like this music, it's very relaxing. And so far it has only played whenever something actually nice happened. If in the future it will be ruined by an awful scene, then I won't forgive that. What, you mean 6 years ago? I mean, I was still in elementary school back then, right? It's pretty unfair to expect me to remember everything you think. True, especially because we were so young. We've grown a lot in these 6 years. If I hadn't been introduced, I might not even have remembered you.
Really? I figured he was Battler right away. And when he opened his mouth, I was sure. Oh, I just met him for the first time. Didn't know him 6 years ago. That's right. Maria-sama was only 3 years old then.
Well, same goes for me. I only knew Maria when she was 3 years old, and since she's grown so big, of course I wouldn't recognize her. After lunch, we had all gone out to the beach to walk around and take it easy. Okay, so it's similar to episode 1, right? In episode 2 we did not go to the beach at all. Our parents were apparently having a suspicious, complicated discussion, so we ended up leaving them behind. Well, just as I had guessed from the start, the conversation focused on me, since I had been away for 6 years. Still, you've really gotten tall. I wouldn't call myself short, but your height really surprised me.
That's right. I remember well what Battler-sama was like 6 years ago, but I was surprised even so. Yeah, seriously. I can hardly believe this is the same Battler we knew back then.
I'm surprised how much everyone remembers about it. My memory is all hazy.
Yeah, I bet. Looks like it's taking you a while to remember us. You know, that hurts a bit.
Come on, this was 6 years ago, right? I'm the one who has it bad, being forced to remember.
Are you saying that you can't remember well because it was 6 years ago? I can remember it as clearly as if it happened yesterday.
Well, your memory is great after all. You remember the kind of things Battler did and said back then pretty clearly, don't you?
Come to think of it, that's right. Shannon's memory can be incredible when you would least expect it.
That won't be important at all, will it? This will totally play a huge role. Okay, so we should always listen to what Shannon can remember.
Ooh, I'm horrible at remembering. I remember fun things, but can't remember boring things at all. Ugh.
We all laughed, saying that everyone was like that.
Shannon, by the way, what was Battler like 6 years ago? Remember any interesting episodes? Let's see. I'm sure that he said something like this when he left. I'll be back. See you again. I'll surely come for you riding a white horse.
Ah, stop it! So embarrassing!
Sounds just like something you would say. Yeah, I remember you always used to be full of those stupid lines, Battler.
It really does sound like something Battler-kun would have said back then.
Ugh. Embarrassing? Is that embarrassing?
Yeah, horribly embarrassing. Maria, I'm sure that when you're in middle school, you'll want to say embarrassing stuff like that. When that happens, make sure you write it down and read it 3 times before saying it out loud. If you don't, you'll definitely regret it. Still, everyone has to pass through that pitiful period. That's right. That's how you learn your place, learn shame and become an adult. Yeah, it's one of those bittersweet things everyone does in adolescence as they transition to becoming adults. Memory you just want to forget. Ah. After all, this was all stuff I had let slip out without thinking, so I didn't remember the words exactly. But now that those words were being recited to me, they were as embarrassing as hell. I only recently came to understand this weakness, and was working hard to avoid such careless outbursts, but I guess I was just born with the habit of speaking without thinking, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Shannon? Do you remember any other embarrassing stuff? Yes, well, I remember a few other things, but since it looked like the person in question wants to forget them, I think I'll refrain from saying any more.
To be brutally honest, I don't remember this at all. Please don't make me remember.
Ugh, Shannon's bullying Battler? Ugh, you can't. You shouldn't bully people.
She isn't really bullying him. Let's leave it at that, okay? But Shannon, you'll have to tell me all about it sometime Battler isn't around. It sounds pretty interesting.
Yes, certainly.
No, you can't, Shannon-chan. For a while, George Aniki laughed at me as though warming up for when Shannon-chan would tell him about more about my embarrassing misspeaks. Okay, that definitely didn't happen last time, but it's still quite similar. George looked like he was flirting with Shannon, but he seemed somewhat open and frank about it. He was always that way with his cousins, but he usually took on a reserved, gentlemanly attitude when he came in contact with the servants. It's still quite hard for me to tell if what happened last episode, all the things we saw from before, like them going on dates and everything, does this apply to each and every episode? So, do we always have the same basis, at least for this? Because Beatrice did say that some things might be changed in the past to create a new scenario, but I don't know how accurate this actually is. I got the feeling he was being a bit overly friendly, which seems strange. Maria started scribbling the sand with a stick, and George Aniki and Shannon-chan joined in. This left me and Jessica off to the side, so I asked her secretively. Hey Jessica, is George Aniki going out with Shannon-chan? Oh? What the... How did you guess? Battler, you've got a keener eye for people than I thought. Yeah, it's quite interesting, because during the first loop he was completely out of the loop. Huh? What? I was just kidding. But they're actually going out?
Shh! Your voice is too loud. Looks like they're keeping it secret for now, okay? Would be better if nobody found out about it, especially Aunt Ava.
I see. In love with a servant, huh? Yeah, but since when? Phew, I guess a lot can happen in 6 years. But yeah, Anik is an amazing person, and Sharon-chan seems to be kind of brave, so they make a pretty good batch. Actually, 6 years ago I remember taking notice of her just a little bit. I see, she really fits well with George Aniki. Nothing I can do about that. Goodbye, my fleeting first love of 6 years ago. Which means that the collection of embarrassing lines Shannon-chan had just held back on It probably had something to do with that. Oh, he hit on her. Okay. I can't take it. How long have they been going out?
That depends on what you call going out, but I think it's been at least a year. But if you count the time they both had one-sided feelings, it would probably be several years.
Before I had realized it, the two of them had separated themselves from the group and were walking down the beach, talking about something. They looked calm, and rather than a light relationship between two lovers, it looked like a more serious one, as though they were already engaged. 6 years ago, huh? That's a long time. What did those 6 years mean to me? I've just gotten taller. It was just a waste of time. 6 years I spent obstinately fighting with my dad.
What about you, Battler? You got a girlfriend?
I wonder. There's a few girls that I have fun with, but there's no only one. Guess I'm just a kid. I think it's more fun to be noisy with a large group of people than being alone with one person.
Ah, that's so you, Battler. But take your relationships with your female friends seriously. When girls get wrong impressions of form a group, it can be scary, you know. They might be having secret feuds over you behind your back, with people getting hurt or crying.
That's so weird. I think I remember getting the same bit of advice from one of the girls in my class just last week. What's this all about? Why can't everyone just have fun together? People really want to couple up that much?
It's probably because you've never found a partner like that, Battler. Well, you might run into someone sooner or later. You've just gotta wait patiently.
Yeah. What? I almost sound like you've already found a partner like that. What about you? Have you gotten a boyfriend? Well, kinda.
Huh? Me? No,
Come on, that reaction's so easy to understand. From the looks of it, there's some boy you're thinking about, but you haven't been able to confess to him yet, so something like that. 1 second.
Okay. No, that's, Shut up! Who cares about that?
Well, she kind of confessed to him, but he kind of rejected her. At least in the last loop. I don't know if this is true here. Please confirm that for me. If you are watching this video and it isn't important for the plot, like if I'm okay with knowing it right now, it would be really nice to know if the things from, for example, episode 2 can also be applied here in terms of their backstory. If you're the one who brought up the subject, why are you yelling at me now? Women are creatures who always ask questions and yet almost never answer them. What cruel creatures. Seriously. A bit sexist.
Well, I did try to confess once. Well, I struck out pretty badly.
Okay, so that did happen.
Did you get
an I'm sorry?
No, well, my feelings were seriously one-sided and they didn't really know how to respond, I guess. It was like they didn't view me that way at all.
Well, I can't understand that. You talk like a man, after all. If you don't act a bit more graceful, you won't be able to catch a boy's interest. Huh. Haven't we heard this kind of talk before somewhere?
Is the way I speak really that bad?
Okay, I made the prediction that Jessica would die early on, but seeing this loop and how Jessica is really similar to Ava in a way here, even though they are... It's quite fun because the whole Ava and Kraus situation is in a way reversed with George and Jessica, but also very similar. But not quite similar, like... how do I say this? George is George is all that diligence and intelligence that Ava has, while Jessica also has all this aloofness or being a bit lazier, less intelligent, similar to Kraus. But on the other side, Jessica is this boyish girl that's probably quite that's being told she should be more like a girl, similar to Ava. And George is probably more similar to Kraus, as that he is constantly being told by Ava that he should be responsible and he's a man and he should take care of the family and all of that. So they're kind of like crows that Ava change, but also the same and mixed and all around that. It's kind of a really fun dynamic. Well, how you talk isn't everything, but when people like you usually have a rough style of speech, suddenly start working hard to talk more normally. Well, there are guys out there whose heart will skip a beat when they see how determined you are. Is that really true? I see, yeah. Jessica suddenly started talking more meekly, and then her face instantly went slightly red. I see. Even though her confession didn't go well, it looks like she still hasn't given up. But still, I get it. After seeing how close Judge Aniki and Shannon-chan have gotten, I also kind of want to find a girlfriend. 6 years. 6 years of puberty are pretty important, and they went by pretty fast. As the typhoon approached, the clouds grew steadily grayer, but even so, I had this really refreshing feeling. Maybe I'll try thinking more seriously about the opposite sex, more than just the size of their boobs. By the way, it looks like George Aniki is going out with a servant. Don't tell me it's the same for you. Huh? What? Why do you think that? Come to think of it, that kid Kanan-kun who greeted us in the Ghost Garden. You're recovering for him pretty intensely, considering he was just a little awkward at talking. No, that's not... Now you're getting paranoid. And tell me just one thing. Right now, is the boy you're after within 1 kilometer of this spot? Well, about that, I wonder. Kanan-kun was the only boy on this island now who could possibly become her boyfriend. So, judging by her reaction, I was right on. I didn't think of the Shumia family as a noble family, but love with a servant? I wouldn't have dreamed that 2 pairs of Romeo and Juliet would be right next to me. Yeah, it's quite funny. Aunt Ava would probably become an obstacle to George Aniki and Shannon-chan's love. If Aunt Ava ever learned that Shannon-chan was the partner of her only beloved son, she would probably scream at her for trying to steal away her precious George. And the relationship between Jessica and Kanan-kun would probably be just as difficult. And Natsuhi was also very strict about that kind of thing. After all, Jessica's husband would probably become the head of the Shumia family in the future. If that person had once been a servant working for the family, well, things would get complicated. Well, love is different for every person. As long as you're with someone who's fun to be around, does anything else matter? When 2 people pair up, they don't need anyone's permission, as long as they accept each other. Worrying about what your parents or family will say means you've already lost. Don't forget that. You had better not go out with someone with mixed feelings. I can't believe you're saying something so philosophical sounding when you haven't been in love. Don't treat love like a matter of profit and loss. It's about heart. That's all I have to say. Well then, see you again. Have a nice day. George Nissan. Shannon, listen. This guy, he said another one of those lines. I didn't say anything. Don't make fun of me.
I heard it. See you again.
For a while we forgot that the wind was getting stronger and played around on the beach. I grew a lot these past 6 years, and being able to celebrate my youth and meet with all of my cousins was truly refreshing. It was a bit late now, but I realized that I should have gotten back together with everyone a lot sooner and returned to the Shumia family. It sure is nice to have all the cousins together every once in a while.
Ooh, I like it too. It's really fun when all the cousins get together.
That's right. We're already old enough. It's not like we couldn't meet each other when our parents aren't around. It might not be a bad idea to gather the cousins together and play every once in a while. That's a good plan. Maybe we should set up something like that the next time we get a chance.
Yeah, I agree. I hope we cousins can stay friends forever.
Hey, if you're making such a big deal of it, you almost make it sound like relatives usually end up hating each other. George Aniki and Jessica laughed, but I felt just a little strained. Yeah. Did I say something wrong? Well, kinda just poked into the beehive, yeah. Judging by how our parents made quite quiet expressions and tired faces every once in a while during the boat ride and at the airport, maybe I should have kept that to myself. You're right. It's just like Jessica said. Let's always be friends to each other.
Oh, me too. We're all friends.
That's right. Yeah. We'll always be together. We'll always be friends.
Man, we've been saying some pretty embarrassing stuff. I feel kinda awkward. But I think it's very important. People are creatures who find it very hard to stay together, much less remain friends, unless they truly desire it.
That's right. You really can't take everyone being friendly for granted.
Oh, and which I know said it. Happiness won't be granted unless everyone believes in it.
That's true. Maybe some magic exists in the power of belief. If we all believe in that, I'm sure it will bring us happiness. Aww.
Alright. Well, if we're doing embarrassing stuff already, let's all swear to believe in this together, okay? That we'll all always be friendly, that we'll always be happy.
In what way is this all going to backfire? They're all somehow going to be at each other's throat at the end of this, aren't they? I don't see how yet, but it's totally going to happen. Like hell, we'll end up like our parents. As if we would ever search for each other's weaknesses, going after grandfather's fortune. Okay, we'll always be friendly and happy. Let's all believe in that. No matter how much we cousins try to nostalgically have fun, dark clouds continue to approach Rokkenjima. I wonder if the typhoon will pass and let us see the clear skies before we leave this island. Who cares about what our parents are planning? Who cares about the inheritance and the honor of the old family? As youthful as we were renewing our old friendship, and we all believed together that we could find happiness. That's why I want this pair of days to end, without anything weird happening, in peace and happiness, and calmly. No, I don't just want them to end. Please, let them end. Let them end? Yeah, I knew that would be happening. Hi Berto, where's your fun music? Ah, there we go. Damn it! Don't show up, don't appear! Damn it, damn it, damn it! Sorry to keep you waiting. I finally prepared a new game. Come, let us begin the tale of tragedy. Come to me, winds, rain, typhoon. Cut this island out from the real world. Throw Rokkenjima into another realm, into the spirit world, into a world of fantasy. Welcome to Rokkenjima. And so, the tale repeated for the third time. However, to an endless witch, what did it matter whether it was the first, second or third time? It probably didn't matter at all. After all, this was a tale of fantasy, endlessly repeating until the match was settled. Would Battler surrender first, or would the witch? Well, Beartooth doesn't really want us to surrender, I feel like, because he wants to play, so I think it will be a long time before any of them surrenders. Then the sky grew dark and cloudy, and the rain and wind were summoned together and became a typhoon. Maria could be seen in the rose garden, paying no mind to the rain that had started falling. Still working. Nice. I was checking once in a while, because I once had the recording fail and it was awful. So we are back to episode 1, right? Going around in circles, searching for that single road that should have been marked. Yeah. Then... oh. There's a... Once ton solves this vehicle. And Kraus. Okay. I made so many spelling mistakes. God damn it. Similar setup to app 1.
Not here, not here. My rose. That we marked isn't here. Oh! Oh!
Maria definitely remembered that Rose had been in the flower bed right here. And yet it wasn't anymore. She didn't know what to do with her irritation at not being able to find something that should have been there. and moaning bitterly, she couldn't help but keep going back and forth in circles around the same spot. She was acting almost as though she would be able to see it if she looked at a different angle. But even though she did that, there was no way to find something that wasn't there. Yeah, this isn't symbolic at all. The wind grew increasingly strong and the rain turned into cold, large drops. There was no way even Maria would fail to notice this. However, if she couldn't find her rose here, it would surely disappear forever. Maria believed that. Similar to how Kinzo believes that if Beato doesn't appear here, she would be gone forever, huh? That feeling spurred her on to keep searching for a rose that she had no chance of finding. Just then, the cold drops of rain tormenting Maria were suddenly blocked. Okay, we see that side now. That looks very Beato-like.
Huh?
Maria raised her head. When she did, she saw an umbrella there, protecting her from the rain. And the one holding out that umbrella was... Yeah. Okay, that was Maria actually. The witch she admired, Beatrice.
Beatrice!
What are you doing so frantically in the middle of all this rain? You could catch a cold like this. Witches have to care for their own health.
I can't find my rose. Oh. No matter how many times I search, even though it should have been here, I can't find it.
Maria told Beatrice about how there had been a slightly unhealthy, pitiful rose, and that she was sure they had marked it. But interesting that we don't really get to see Beato here. Because usually in all these meeting the witch scenes, she just appears outright and we see her in full color. Like even last time when she gave the letter to Rosa and Maria, Beato was right there. So with her being hidden this time, I wonder if this Beato is really Beato. So you can't find it? If you are a witch's apprentice, you should use magic to search for the rose. I believe that searching with just your eyes would be nearly enough.
Ugh, I can't find it. I did my best and tried to search with magic, but I can't find it.
I think practicing your magic is a very good thing, but it might be a little too much for you with all this wind and rain. Allow me to lend you some special power. Concern for one's disciples is also one of the teacher's duties.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Maria's face, which had been full of sadness until just now, split open into a grin. Maria knew. She knew that there was nothing within Beatrice's power that she couldn't do. So she was sure that Beatrice would be able to find the rose easily, even though Maria couldn't. Beatrice closed her eyes lightly, acting as though she was listening for something in all this wind and rain. Then she heard it, opened her eyes, and spoke. All things in this world are transitionary. Too bad, Maria. It seems your rose couldn't withstand all of this wind and rain.
Oh, then my rose...
It was uprooted by the wind and is no longer of this world.
Oh?
What Beatrice had said was quite reasonable. There was nothing odd about the flower being broken off at the stem in the strong wind. However, Maria couldn't accept this and bitterly gave a low-pitched moan.
No.
Huh?
No, no, no. It's my rose. My rose won't come back. No. I'll bring it back to life with my magic.
Beatrice.
Teach me how to revive those roses with magic.
It's much too early for an apprentice like you to learn the hidden art of endless magic. Know your place.
Oh.
Maria wiped the tears from her eyes, full of regret. Beatrice shrugged her shoulders and chuckled at Maria's pitiable expression. Very well. I will lend you my power. The hidden art that can revive a rose.
Really?
Indeed. Well then, concentrate the power of your heart. Close your eyes, forget the rain, forget the wind, and search for the soul of the wandering rose with the eyes of your heart.
Oh.
Maria closed her eyes. Then Shin repeated Beatrice's song-like words.
Come, try to remember. Rose, what form did you have?
I thought, okay.
Come, try.
Yeah. Yeah, Maria. Sorry. Don't look. Don't listen. And believe. Release the power of your soul from the cage of flesh that imprisons it. That's it? Good. Around Maria, who was concentrating her power, her eyes tightly shut, small golden butterflies began to dance. Was this the manifestation of the magical power Maria held? Lost soul of the rose, gather into one and remember your form. Come, gather, remember. The glitter of the gold butterflies began to strengthen, and their numbers increased. Then Beatrice raised a finger up to the skies, and they began to gather at the tip of that finger. This was a miracle of the golden magic. The gold butterflies began to condense into a single dazzling grain of gold. It was a single glittering gold seed. It rode on the tip of Beatrice's finger, budded into a golden sprout and opened into a golden leaf, and then slowly fell from the fingertip, sank into the mud of the flower bed, and began to grow steadily. Okay, that definitely is magic. There is no trick that can do that, so I'm just going to assume that whatever is actually happening here, like, we once again have this parallel view of this is a magic one, but there's actually a real trick going on, like, I don't know, close your eyes. Oh wow, I found the flower. You know. Maria, who admired magic and the witch, really wanted to see this fantastical sight. However, as an apprentice, Maria was still not qualified to see it. Like, maybe this is all just Maria's imagination of what is happening. No, she was probably afraid that if she opened her eyes to look, the power that she had concentrated in her heart would be cut off, and the magic would be lost. Therefore, Beatrice, as the only one permitted to witness this golden miracle, was the only witch, the sole master of many miracles. Then, the fully grown rose bloomed, creating one golden flower. And when Beatrice poked it with her finger in just the right way, the gold-colored sparkles scattered, just as if a golden soap bubble had popped, and what remained was a single beautiful rose. It looks like you've remembered a splendid rose. However, if you just leave it mixed in with these other roses, you won't be able to tell it apart. Shall I perform one last service? Beatrice, for the sake of her cute apprentice, who was moaning even more now in concentration, decided to use one more bit of magic. When she snapped her fingers, a single gold butterfly appeared, fluttered around, and landed on the flower that had just been revived. Then it suddenly burst open and disappeared, becoming golden lace and marking the rose. That will do, Maria. You may open your eyes now.
Huh? Where's the rose? It's not here, not here.
Not over there, over here. Look, I've marked it with golden lace.
Wow, you did! Awesome, 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 awesome! Thank you, Beato. Thank you, Beato. I want to become a witch quickly, a great witch like you.
And you can. Look, long ago I too wished for that innocently, just as you do, and I have attained that level. Maria was ecstatic over the revived rose, clapping her hands and jumping around in joy. Watching that, Beatrice also smiled, looking fairly pleased. By now, I can break and repair any soul if I try, not just that of a rose, and kill and revive as I please. Come, the barrier of the storm has no shieldbroken dreamer from natural world. Now is the time for the golden witch Beatrice to descend as an endless witch. Beatrice pulled from her pocket an envelope with the family crest, the one-winged eagle, and gave it to Maria. Maria frolicked around at being selected to be the witch's messenger. Okay, so it's pretty much the same setup. Letter as well. Not as. As well. So, Kinzer, I've come to join on your fun once more. Your fun once more.
My preparations are already complete. What of you? Have you prepared enough coins to bet in this tonight's game?
Switch to Kinzo, I assume?
Yeah. Of course, I'm fully prepared, Beatrice. I've assembled a plethora of pieces. I'm ready both physically and mentally. So then, let us make the ante. All that you have given should be returned to you in the end. Come, take it!
Kinzo flung the window of the study open wide, took off the valuable golden ring that had been on his finger, and threw it into the darkness of the raging wind and rain. That ring was struck by lightning and after twinkling gold for an instant disappeared. Kinzo watched it go, grinning broadly and fearlessly.
I don't think I'll lose. You are mine. Forever.
Did he throw the ring before or after? Oh. One sec. How do I fix that? 1 second, Kinzo. I have an issue. That didn't happen before. Nope. 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 There we go. Okay. When did Kinzo throw the ring? Because of what it looks like, he now threw it out after she already appeared with the letter. Which would mean that whoever gave the ring would have needed to have that ring beforehand somehow, or faked the logo. The ring that Kinzo had thrown became a single gold butterfly fluttered around in the wind and rain. It headed for the rose garden, almost as though it was guided there, and then found the figure of the golden witch and fluttered down. When it came down right in front of Beatrice, it burst open and returned to its original form, flying through the air. The way it was going, you would have expected it to fall into a puddle, but it stopped suddenly in mid-air, almost as if some transparent person had caught it. Apparently, even Beatrice hadn't expected this. However, she realized what? No, who it was, and grinned broadly at it. Who caught that? As she did, the shadow of the person who had caught the ring began to fuzzily appear. Is that Ava? I don't know. The person doesn't have long hair, right? Maybe it's a man. Oh, but this looks like a dress, right? This part down here, so like a dress, and here's this like put up here. It could be Ava. It's her episode. It was a figure. No, it's a man. Oh, is it Kanon? Oh yeah, he has a skirt-like thing, right? It was a figure of a young man wearing a butler's uniform embroidered with a one-winged eagle crest. There was no man like this among the servants of the Yoshimiya family. Okay. Even so, Beatrice laughed as though it was someone she remembered fondly. Renova, is it? It's been quite some time. It seems you've remembered me. You were always a man who took loyalty seriously. Who? It has been quite some time since your last correspondence. Not for a single day have I, Renova, forgotten that I serve you, my lady. I was more afraid that you had forgotten about me. After all, you can be quite forgetful. I see. Yes, I certainly am forgetful. I had forgotten even your sarcasm until I heard it again. My lady, take this. With an exaggerated yet elegant gesture, he bowed respectfully and held out to Beatrice the head's ring that he had just caught. Who are you? It is Yoshimiya family's head's ring, returned to you from Yoshimiya Kinzo. It is now once again in the possession of its master. Indeed. This is Kinzo announcing the start of the game.
Of course I'll accept it.
So, how shall we play tonight? Shall I prepare the roulette immediately? Or shall I prepare some black tea first?
I can't decide which. At first I need you to greet someone. I'm sure that guy's got his mouth hanging open and can't shut it. Hi, Battler. Right, Battler? Who are you?
Renova? Was that it? Greetings. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm called Renove. And I serve at the side of Lady Beatrice. It is a pleasure to meet you.
See? His mouth's hanging open and he can't shut it, right? Yeah, no shit. Another incomprehensible guy just showed up. First I grumble about goat-headed people doing the Born Dance, and then goat-heads start showing up in swarms. And since then, not only has those 7-ass Nesans appeared, but now there's even a butler. Doesn't make sense, cut it out. By the way, Battler, did you notice? Did you realize that meeting him is a true devil's proof? Devil's proof?
What do you mean?
He may not look like it, but this guy is one of the 72, a genuine demon.
Oh, one of Solomon's.
In other words, I've brought a demon right in front of you, which truly proves they exist. Renova holds a noble rank in hell, the 27th highest ranked great demon. He's a pretty useful man. I summoned him at high cost and made him serve me.
It is an honor to meet you. While my name is amongst those of the nobles of hell, I now serve as the head furniture of Beatrice Summer, who despite being a vulgar human, is a great witch of such caliber that demons flee before
her. He's a very useful man, but is impudent with his words. Frustratingly enough, he sometimes forgets to respect his master.
Nothing in my contract specifies the manner in which I am to speak. Would you like to change that contract?
It keeps me entertained, so it's fine.
Beatrice turned her back to him, cackling. After bowing once to her back, Renova turned back to Battler and stuck out his right hand, showing off an innocent smile. Normally this would mean that he was asking for a handshake.
What's that supposed to be?
I am another who has been subjected to my lady's whims. In that sense, I am sure we could become good friends. This is a handshake of friendship. Of course, this in no way implies your entry into a contract with a demon, so fear not.
Sorry, but I'm in the middle of a big fight with your master. I only shake hands with an enemy after we've beaten each other up in a rainy schoolyard, and are all worn out, like something you would see in a teen drama. Remember that.
I see. To shake hands with you, Battler, I must create a fitting atmosphere in a suitable location. Exchanging sweet words and physical language with you that rings true to your heart. When that opportunity arises, I shall arrange for such an encounter. I must say, I simply love situations like that myself. As Renova laughed tauntingly, he whispered to Battler, bringing his face so close that their noses were almost touching. Battler, his face turning red after getting so close to another of the same sex, pushed him away. You're a creepy bastard. I see, just right for Beatrice, Battler. It is an honor to receive such words of praise. I'm very confident in my tea brewing abilities, so please look forward to tea time. Baking cookies is one of my hobbies, so please feel free to request any snacks you may desire. Just what I expect from a pair of these same gender. You started getting along well right off the bat. I'm jealous. My. I apologize for making you jealous, my lady. I shall not sneakily snatch your guest away from you. Well then, I will leave for now to retake my post as head furniture and greet my subordinates. Please forgive my short absence. Indeed. Only the common goats and the 7 sisters used for the ceremony have manifested themselves. You will be able to finish greeting them in no time. Oh, those lively seven sisters are here. I wonder if those naughty girls have grown a little more graceful. If that's graceful, I'll have to doubt the definition of the word graceful. Is that so? Then I suppose you've already had the opportunity to play with those sisters. Judging by your expression, it would seem they are just as naughty as always. Even though I am always telling them to act more fitting as servants of Beatrice Summer. What troublesome kids. If that's your problem, don't worry. They actually act perfectly fitting for their master. Now even you have begun to say it. However, a conversation means that you accept your partner. The fact that you've started to respond to my idle chatting proves that you are gradually starting to accept my existence. That's because even if the sun starts rising from the west, I will definitely, absolutely never accept that you're a witch. You might want to try a more positive approach, like crying and kissing my shoes. Even if Battler was bluffing, he still spoke forcefully, a fearless expression on his face. The witch and the butler snickered together, realizing that their guest had regained more than enough of his willpower to attend to a new game, and that preparations were complete. After Renove exchanged a few words with Beatrice, he bowed silently to Battler, scattering into several gold butterflies, and disappeared. It is truly pleasing to have such a boisterous atmosphere. How boring were the days when I was trapped alone on this island, unable to regain my power and lacking anyone to talk to. I gotta tell that unpleasant guy is really fitting as your butler. But tell me, why has the butler only appeared now? You said something about how only the goats and the nations of the seven stakes had manifested themselves. What did that mean? Indeed, you still resist, but I am a fully fledged witch. I am in contact with several non-human entities in the spirit world. I'll bet. No sane person would hang out with you. First some goat monsters, then those ass nations, and this time a demon butler showed up. I had to think about it, but the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if even more weird people appeared. Among the furniture that work at my great golden mansion, how many demons do you think want to come and play? They will keep coming. Many of them will appear. When the door to the Golden Land is opened, I will call back all my furniture and build my new castle here on Rock and Dreamer. And I plan to invite all of my old friends, and we will drink and dance together for 3 days and 3 nights. Of course, I also plan to invite Kinzel's family, you see. You too, if you wish. So, is this what you mean? That since you lost your power for a long time, you couldn't summon them? And then, since your magic power has been gradually increasing, you've become able to summon more and more monsters? It is as I say. You stopped the air's breath before grumbling, but your heart is already wavering, and you're unable to deny that I am a witch. But wavering in your heart has been slowly restoring my power as a witch. So, are you trying to say that creepy butler appeared because I started to surrender? That's right. Bit by bit, you are surrendering to me. Is he real or not? Like, is the butler just magic? We will have to see if he's actually appearing in the actual story, or just in the semi-story. Isn't all the humiliation you suffered in the last game a result of you submitting to me so deeply? Wasn't it great when you had to sacrifice your back for the sake of my feet? Damn it! I thought I had been able to keep things as they were, as long as I didn't accept you, but it looked like I was wrong. Correct. The closer you get to surrendering, the more this game will swing in my favor. Isn't chess the same? In the process of cornering each other's kings, we trade several pieces. Of course, I still haven't cornered your king. And furthermore, you're giving it everything you've got just to help your king escape, and have lost several pieces to me, as well as a large advantage. It is only natural that further developments will tend to turn in my favor. Damn. From now on, you will probably be frantic as you try to avoid my checkmate. However, as you do, I will steal your pieces from you one by one. In the end, you'll have lost everything but your king, and you won't be able to escape no matter how much you try. Then you will receive a true checkmate. You were talking big last time, weren't you? Something about how you would never accept me and would torment me with eternal torture? Only witches who have reached the endless level can talk about eternity. That's been beyond you ever since the beginning. There we have it. Kinzo-sama has already publicly displayed the location of the hidden gold within the epitaph under my portrait. The rules apply equally to all who can reach the epitaph. If you discover the gold, I shall return everything to you. Yeah.
Tonight I ask you to enjoy your battle of wits with Kinzo-sama to the fullest. I sincerely pray that this night will be both intellectual and elegant. Beatrice the Golden.
When Maria finished reading the letter that Beatrice had handed her, everyone was at a loss for words for a while. And then they all broke to silence at once. Okay, so... not really here? Ridiculous. What a worthless, vicious prank. Seriously. There is no way Father gave up the head's ring. Beatrice? What a transparent prank, hoping to confuse us by bringing up that name.
Hey, who filled this desert up with a little too much punch? I want to applaud and praise you, so come clean, okay? Rosa?
Of course not. I wouldn't pull a prank by assuming Father's name.
Then Anarchy? Anarchy!
Me? Are you an idiot? It was Nissan, right? Only he could plan something this vulgar. You're trying to mock me? I'm the one who wants to question you. Who is behind this ill-natured prank? Kraus beat the table and stared at everyone. Since that included the children too, he scared most of them. A letter from a mysterious person who claims to have been given full rights to Father's assets. Considering that the whole point of this family conference is a discussion of the subject, I think it's too hasty to call this a mere prank. We can't be sure. Maybe it really is one of Father's shady pranks. He might have planned this to shock us a bit, since we've been discussing the distribution of his inheritance without him.
If that was the one who planned this, then we can't take what Maria just read out loud as a joke, right?
That's right. If you interpret the contents literally, then this is a test from Father. The epitaph of the witch has been displayed in the hall for quite some time now, but any of us could solve it. There was plenty of notice. It means he was saying that the first person to solve it would be handed the inheritance along with all of his wealth, right? See? My magic granted your wish. Oh.
Nothing so foolish could possibly be the case. It is an unshakable fact that my husband is a successor to the Umineko family headship.
It was quite interesting. Huh. What is Ava's little witch? Well, doesn't this letter shake it? This is a message from the person who is given full rights to all Father's wealth. He sounds right to become the head is returned to a blank state. The person who solves the riddle, the person who finds Beatrice's gold, will become the next head of the Umineko family. That's different from last time. Ava's motivation is a bit shaken up. Ridiculous. Do you think we can trust the meaningless words in that letter? That the seal was the real thing? There's no way we could trust that. Let's try to go and ask Father directly. At this point, you can't get away with saying he's grumpy or feeling bad, right? The sealed wax clearly shows that this was from Father's representative. If you doubt that, then show some proof, Nisa. Show that this letter does not contain Father's will. Very well. It is just as you say. It no longer matters whether Father's in a good mood or not. Let us go up and ask him directly.
Let's do it. We'll ask Dad directly. Dad is dead, so why would he act in such a roundabout way? And again, I guess it would be like him.
I wonder if we really should continue this discussion on the assumption that this letter came from Father's. Stupid Rosa. Isn't it obvious from Father? That letter is Father's. Isn't it obvious that he's given us an even chance to become the successor? She really wants to jump onto that.
Die, you brainless idiot!
Rosa really is stumped.
If only dear would just give up and die. I'm sorry. That's right. I'm sorry.
In the beginning, the adults had all doubted the credibility of the letter, but after realizing that this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance in the inheritance struggle for the 3 younger siblings, Ava changed her position, claiming that the letter was authentic. Yes, that's what... okay. Change from app 1, major, Ava on board with letter. That's where I would say the biggest change so far. That's what changes the situation about. Rudolph and Rosa caught on and agreed.
Outrageous! How can adults like you take such worthless pranks so seriously? I don't need to be father to understand this contempt.
Whoa. Naturally, son. All we've got to do is ask father and we're done, right? What everything we find a father just tells us is he doesn't know about any letter.
Nissan, take responsibility and just get him to say that he doesn't know about the letter. This is no time to get scared because he's in a bad mood, okay? He's still scared of father at his age, that idiot. If only he would just give up and die. He's tailored to everyone.
Yeah. Let's get this settled clearly. He's probably eating in his study right now. Let's have him set down his chopsticks for just a moment.
It's decided. Let's go. Curie, wait here for a while. We'll go to check whether it's true or not and come back quickly.
Thank you. Now wait patiently for Goda-san to bring in dessert. The 4 siblings, Natsu and Hideyoshi, all rose from their seats forcefully and flew out the hallway with a clatter. Afterwards, only the children, stunned completely speechless, Nanju, who looked uncomfortable, and Curie, who just shrugged, were left. Okay. I'm gonna do a little break here right now because I have some things to attend to. I think I'll just continue the episode still. You'll see with the length. But before I take that break, one little thing that I wanted to talk about. The whole episode with Renova just now. So Beatrice gains strength and thus is able to call more demons, which I assume will only appear in magic-y scenes throughout the loop and not actually as people, which makes them very different from the Beartooth we actually saw appear in the last loop. Furthermore, since she didn't appear this time, I assume that Beartooth is seemingly uninvolved. That would be interesting to see if she still somehow appears. Also, Beartooth says that as long as she's winning against Battler, she can stack up more pieces and become stronger. So could it also be the case in reverse, that if Battler manages to fight back and find points of weakness, that he can somehow fight back? I mean, he can't summon demons, so that wouldn't work, but maybe he can bring the people that are here right now, like George and Maria, to his side to aid him in some way in his mental battle. Maybe something like that. Yeah, but we'll continue after my break. See ya. So, welcome back. As you can see, a lot has changed. Since the last time I got a comment about there supposedly being a mod that improves the game a lot, and I applied that mod, and now we have this little nice text window here, as well as new backgrounds and I think some other improved stuff, like CGs for example. So I have to say already, I did not change the sprites. I started with the Pachinko sprites, I think they are called, and I like them. I'm okay with them, and even though I heard they're kind of thought of the weird ones, I still thought I want to keep them, because I had this at the beginning and I want to have them till the end. Furthermore, as you can see, there is no notes anymore, and my thing in the top, my little webcam, is smaller, simply because, well, I don't know how to properly film this anymore, because the entire layout now changed. And if I make this one smaller, then things don't quite work out anymore as they're supposed to. And yeah, I will see maybe this corner will be free, but if I put it here, then you can't properly read the text, and if I put it somewhere here, then it laps over this one, so I'm just gonna sacrifice the notes for the thing here, because let's be honest, I'm just doing them on the sideline anyways, and I'm talking about it, and if you want to read the notes, I mean, I don't think that's necessary, right? We can always talk about them whenever, and if I want to talk about it more, here's the notes, let's talk about it. So that will work. Okay, very nice. So we are back with the whole new layout and see how this will work out. What happened? Okay, yeah, I remember. The adults left and now Maria is sad because of the effect of her message. Wait, did this change the... No, it's all fine, good. However, judging from her appearance, she didn't look like she realized the full meaning of what she had just read.
What in the world? What's that all about?
Oh, and I also heard that there's a Japanese voiceover version, but since I'm reading the text out loud and none of us can understand Japanese, well, most of us don't understand Japanese, I just turned the volume down and I'm just gonna read it out aloud, and I hope it's fine for everyone. So it's probably a worse dub than the Japanese version.
What's that all about? I don't get it. They're all bastards. Do they really want the inheritance that much?
Everyone, this is our parents' problem. It has nothing to do with us, so you mustn't worry about it.
Even if you say that, they were so blatant about it. I can't believe them. Showing off their greed like that. Oh, everyone has to believe together that we'll be happy. Oh.
That's right. We all did promise. Come on, Battler-kun, Jessica-chan, you too.
I feel horrible.
We couldn't accept it at all, but we laid down our arms for the time being. We had been vaguely aware of how filthy this family conference was going to be. However, after that 6-year blank, I couldn't help being shocked. When he saw that the children were completely dejected, Dr. Nanjo cleared his throat uncomfortably. Oh yeah, how do I speak you? I can't speak you the same way as Hideyoshi, but you're kinda similar, I assume. It's an adult matter. It has nothing to do with all of you young people. Let us forget about it.
I would if I could.
I know it's hard, but forget it for now. All of your parents are fighting frantically to make your futures just a little brighter. Please don't look at your injured parents with those cold eyes when they come back. No matter how much you ask us, Kyrie-san, that will be tough.
If we could be happy with an explanation like that, we wouldn't be kids. Oh, everyone be happy! Can't get dark! Believe! If everyone doesn't believe we can be happy, that happiness will get away.
I think the textbook is a bit unfortunate for Maria. She's getting buried by it.
Everyone has to believe. Ugh.
I like the sound of that. I believe too. I'll believe we can find happiness.
Oh, Aunt Curie, thank you. Butler and Jessica, you believe too. Beatrice is always saying that magic won't have any power if you don't believe. Oh.
Curie-san rose from her seat quietly, went over to Maria and crouched down so that their eyes met.
Oh, Aunt Curie believed. Now Butler and Jessica have to believe.
Those two are strong. They'll feel better soon and they'll believe.
Yeah.
More importantly, I want you to tell me something. When Curie-san said that, Jessica, George Aniki, Dr. Nanjo and I all listened closely. It looked like our parents were so concerned with the inheritance problem that grandfather filled their minds. It's about Beatrice, right? But we wanted to ask Maria about something simpler.
What?
Who gave you that letter?
Beatrice.
The witch drawn in that portrait?
Ugh. She gave me this letter and an umbrella. And she used magic to fix my rose that was broken. Beatrice is an awesome witch who can do anything.
Could you tell us that in a bit more detail? Oh. I think that one bugged a bit out, didn't it? That's not how it's supposed to look. That's not how it's supposed to be. Huh. Well, I hope it will work fine soon. Maybe if I restart the game later. Would be unfortunate if things are now a bit chopped. Without even being allowed to wait for dessert, we were chased out of the room. I heard that in the end our parents were unable to get grandfather to respond. Well, I had to say it, but I feel like giving grandfather a high five right now. He was probably pretty satisfied with how his strange letter had given his children a good shock, since they had all been so infatuated with the inheritance problem while grandfather was still alive. I also felt like our despicable parents had gotten what they deserved in all of this confusion. But I couldn't really say that I was feeling great. I felt all sulky. Apparently grandfather hadn't seemed concerned with the whole thing, but he also hadn't denied anything about the letter either. When talking about the witch's letter, grandfather's name kept popping up. If grandfather knew that someone was stealing his name, then considering his character, he would probably be mad with rage. But even though grandfather who now knew the content of the letter, he coldly ignored it. So, did that count as a silent yes? I don't think so, at least from what we saw in episode 1. Aunt Ava and Dad were trying to interpret the letter in their favor, their greed clearly visible. It wouldn't have mattered so much, that is all, but the adults had now started focusing on Maria who had received the letter. They kept pounding her with questions about who had given it to her. Oh, there's a river on the portrait. You see? I mean, that's just the updated version, so it isn't there in the original one, I assume. But maybe that's for some reason part of the riddle. Like, it's not an actual river, but the portrait of it. It would be stupid, right? Because the epitaph is older than the mansion itself, right? Like, he all built that afterwards, so forget it. But I'm constantly looking for any clues, but I shouldn't look at the backgrounds for it, I assume. They kept pounding her with questions about who had given it to her. Maria repeated over and over again that she had gotten it from Beatrice, but there was no way such a mysterious person could have sneaked into the island. Oh, side note, while playing this version, the updated one, the person in the rain actually is Beatrice. Like, obviously in the original it is too, but in this one they don't even hide her in the rain. So I don't know how to feel about that, because it makes it seem a lot clearer. Like, it makes it seem a lot more like it's actually Beatrice, but in the rain version it seemed more, is it her or is it not? You know? After all, this island's small and there's no one living on it outside the Oshiromiya family household. Maria kept repeating that she had gotten it from Beatrice no matter how many times she was asked. The adults seemed to think she was trying to trick them, so they didn't hold back and questioned her until she broke out in tears. As usual. When Maria was released, she sobbed, all worn out from crying. After our parents ordered us to go to the guest house and take Maria with us. They shut themselves up in the dining hall and started getting louder and louder as they discussed the inheritance. This is like exactly like episode 1 right now. Will we get the same result? It would be weird in my opinion, but everything is going exactly the same, so why would things change? But that could the moment be when like we discover different people and then Beatrice pops up. You thought everything was going the same? You fool! Yeah, something like that. It seems that because of that strange letter, Uncle Krause's chances of becoming the next head might have been reduced to a blank state. Oh, state. Also them, as well, also, that's the right word. Jessica didn't give Natsuhi the, what's it called? The talisman, the protection. So things have changed. In exchange for accepting him, my dad and the rest were trying to swindle Uncle Kraus out of a lot of money, or something like that. Disgusted as we were, Jessica and I were happy to move over to the guest house. We didn't want to be under the same roof as those filthy adults, their heads so filled with thoughts about money. George Aniki pleaded on our parents' behalf, saying that he wanted us to understand them. I understood his reasoning, yeah, all that happened as well. No matter how filthy this talk of money was, it wouldn't go away if you just closed your eyes to it. But even so, how could they sink so low as to overtly fight over the money of the dead? Do we not get the talk between Battler, Rudolph, and Curie in this one? Or do we just skip over it? Maria had cried herself dry and was hiding in her bed. She hadn't even twitched for a while, so she probably was sleeping. Who in the world gave a letter to Maria-chan?
George Aniki, George Nissan, you can't ask her that anymore. Isn't it fine to say that Maria got it from Beatrice and leave it at that?
After all, we don't want to make her cry any more than this. Even though we said that, we couldn't clear away a gloomy feeling. There are only 18 people on this island now. The thought that somewhere in the rain a 19th person gave Maria-chan that letter and is now hiding somewhere doesn't seem realistic at all. Back to that one.
Most likely, somebody got Shannon or someone to put on the dress from that portrait and cleverly got Maria to go along with their story.
Yeah, that's also my idea, but I don't know.
So in Maria's case, just seeing the dress would probably convince her that it really was Beatrice.
Maybe it doesn't really matter when it has that letter. The important thing is who sent it. The point is that grandfather wanted to cause an uproar by assuming the name of the witch. Seriously, the old geezer's good at riling people up. Why am I switching Jessica's and Battler's voice up so much right now? The most likely answer is that our occult-loving grandfather was playing around, handing the letter over to Maria, who shares the same hobby as he does in such a dramatic way. Though he failed to give any thought for what Maria would have to go through, making it a pretty shitty thing to do. Seriously, messing around with Maria is pure hard. It doesn't matter who handed the letter over. Maria says she got it from Beatrice, so let's treat it that way. I agree. Let's do that. To Maria-chan, Beatrice is kind of like what Santa Claus is to most kids. Whether we are dealing with some non-existent 19th person or Santa Claus, as long as we all acknowledge them, they'll at least exist inside Maria. I see. I guess it can be pretty important to lie to a child to protect their dreams. What's up, Jessica? Are you still angry? Jessica had her hand on her chin as though there was something that she just couldn't understand. When I called out to her, she came to her senses.
Ah, sorry. Well, actually, I was wondering if Maria might have actually met Beatrice.
What do you mean by that? You're saying there's a 19th person on this island? If you truly take Maria-chan's word to heart, then you would arrive at that answer.
No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about the story that someone we don't know has been living on this island since long ago.
Living, you say? Where? In the forest? This could also be where Beato is living. Ooh, we're getting some of that. The adults were gathered in the dining hall, spending a very long time continuing the discussion that had been started by Beatrice's letter. Crow strongly claimed that the letter was a simple prank, but he couldn't overturn the claim that Kinzo's failure to deny the letter was answer enough. Judging by Kinzo's character, if he knew that the letter had been written in his name, he would be mad with rage. Since all of the siblings knew that, Kraus had no choice but to withdraw his claim. Yeah, but if it was from actually Beatrice, then he wouldn't. Without even having to summarize it, the contents of the letter were simple. The person who could solve the witch's epitaph would receive the headship and assets. This did a lot of damage to Kraus, who had been sure that he would receive the headship, and was better news than the rest of them, who had already given up, could have hoped for. That was a weird put-in sentence. However, there were some points that worried them. The person who solved the epitaph was not limited to a member of the Ushiomiya family. Taken literally, anyone, no matter how doubtful their origin, might receive the headship. And furthermore, this meant there was a chance that all of the Ushiomiya's family's assets would be stolen by some unknown person. In that sense, it was definitely not a situation where even the other siblings could afford to lower their guard. Had the letter come from an assassin sent by Kinzo calling themselves Beatrice? Or was this a scheme of some unknown person trying to steal the Ushiomiya family's wealth? They still didn't know the truth, but they could say one thing for certain. Maria had received this problematic letter today, on this island. In other words, someone planning something to do with that letter was on this island too. Had it been set up by Kinzo, one of the 4 siblings, or maybe some unbeknown person? No matter how much they suspected each other, they couldn't reach a conclusion. After getting tired of bickering with each other, they finally reached the extremely obvious conclusion that doubting each other was just a waste of time. Oh, okay. Oh my. This might get in the way. We'll see. We've made no progress. We've just been spinning our wheels. That's right. And the mere fact that you've realized it means we won't have to waste any more time. It is not certain that father sent the letter. My husband is merely exasperated by your inability to hold a conversation. Who is unable to hold a conversation? You keep yelling at me every time I say something. Do you truly think that such shameful behavior is fitting of a member of the Ushiomiya family? Would you give it a rest, Ava? You do not, son. The topic's finished for now. Shall we all cool our heads off for now? Let's have some cool drinks brought over. That sounds good. It would probably be wiser if we cooled our heads. Don't you want to take a short break too, dear? Aniki looks like she's in a bad mood, so I'll pass on that break. But I agree about the cool drinks. Rosa, have someone bring some water. A whole pitcher. Yes, understood. Rosa headed over to the extension telephone in a corner of the room and called the servant room. She then passed on what Rudolph had told her to the person on the other end. Water. Interesting. Could that be what's used to kill all of them? Like maybe there's poison in the water. The vicious bickering up until now vanished as though it had been a lie. That silence continued until Goda finished setting the table and retreated from the room. Is there anything else that you require? Toshiro. Oh, I didn't even know his last name. No, please leave us. Yes. Then if you will excuse me, if you need anything, call me at any time. After listening to the sound of Goda's footsteps disappear off into the distance, everyone took a deep breath at the same time to break the tension. It sure is raining hard. I wonder if this 19th person is taking shelter in the Rose Garden Arbor about now. No, there's probably someone else. I wonder. They might be able to escape the rain there, but it would be quite cold. A mysterious 19th person as a visitor. Sounds pretty interesting, just like a mystery novel. As if we're in one. Normally in that kind of story it's a safe bet that the person doesn't exist. That one of us 18 would be faking it. I suspect Genji and the others. Just as I thought, it would have been better if we had dismissed all of the servants of the one-winged eagle, no matter how much excuses we have to make. Come now, don't say that. We must be grateful for their long years of service. Of course, we can't let our guard down. I'm sure you agree too, Nissan, that whether or not father was behind this, the person who handed Maria the letter was a servant. Indeed. In any event, we were all being friendly in our big happy circle until dinner, weren't we? Okay, important, because last time, during episode 1, I speculated that maybe the siblings had made some kind of deal, and that one of them dressed up as Beatrice, but since we are assuming the situation now is nearly one-to-one, that from episode 1 with just a few minor differences, this might also mean that we can exclude any of the parents from being the one to give Maria the letter. Which now would only leave, who is it? Natsuhi, Rosa, Shannon, Kanon, and Kumasawa. All of the siblings have alibis. Only a servant could have handed Maria that letter. Or was Rosa here as well in this loop? But all of the servants said that they were too busy with the bed making to have any spare time during which they could go to Maria Chan in the Rose Garden. Hey, what are you trying to say then? You aren't saying that the Witch of the Forest, Beatrice Summer, came over and actually handed Maria that letter, are you? Rosa, you used to believe in that so much. It really frightened you, right? Don't tell me you still believe at this age in the Witch of the Forest? If she exists, I would love for her to appear. But no matter how much I wished, she didn't appear before me even once. She didn't save me from my crisis. Oh, too bad. Of course not. I just thought that since all 18 of us said we didn't do it, there might actually be a 19th person. That can't be. In the first place, we were the only ones who... Oh, wait, I see right now I'm really screwing up the face. Damn it. Can I go here? No, I'm screwing up her face. Ah. What am I doing? Look, I become tiny. Now you can't see me anymore. Can I somehow... No, it's really unfortunate. I should have maybe still left the old text. Like this? Otherwise I will just remove the face cam. It's not that necessary. We'll take a look at it over the turn of the story. In the first place, we were the only ones who came in on that boat. We didn't see any mysterious stranger riding with us. You don't think they could have swam across this rough sea, right? I can't really imagine it. Logically, that's true. It's difficult to imagine that there's a single hidden and uninvited guest on this isolated island. However, it looks like some of us still can't abandon the possibility completely, right? Hideyoshi had laughed it off, saying that there couldn't be a 19th person. But Kurie had sensitively picked up on the delicate atmosphere among the 4 siblings. In a normal situation, there shouldn't have been any uninvited guests on the small isolated island. How would they have come here? From where? And where were they hiding? And why hadn't they appeared openly, even though they had sent a letter in their name? Nothing could explain that. But not only had the 4 siblings not joined in on Hideyoshi's laughing, they also seemed unable to completely deny in their hearts the possibility of a 19th person. Kurie-san, please don't misunderstand. It's not as though we believe in anything like that fairy tale like Legend of the Witch. Is this another topic to insult further? Simply speaking of such a thing as a betrayal against him. I wonder. However, this should be fine, right? Wait, I'm way too small now, right? It will be fine. However, this father we are talking about, it could be possible, right? Uh, I don't know anything. What's this? What's this? Why's everyone gotten so gloomy? What are you talking about? In short, the legend of the witch isn't a joke, but a fact? That's ridiculous. Of course, nobody believes in some witch riding a broom and flying in the sky. But the woman that portrait, Beatrice, might really have existed on this island. Hideyoshi-san, it looks like we aren't talking about a witch, but something a little simpler. So it must be something like this. Everyone suspects that father had a mistress named Beatrice secretly living somewhere on this island. Is that it? Father was always exemplary at keeping strictly to the rules. It is completely inconceivable that he would bring something so filthy onto this island. Wait a second. This might be better. Ooh, or I could, wait. I could do it like this. And then I could expand myself a bit more. Oh wait, not too much. Maybe like this. Let's try it out. Yay, hi. Natsui snapped at them immediately, but it looked like the four siblings, including Kraus, didn't agree. On the contrary, they appeared to think Kinzo wouldn't even have hesitated to do something like that. From the beginning, it had been whispered that Kinzo had built a mansion on this island specifically because of the existence of an entrancing mistress. I'm sorry, Natsuya-san. I know how much you expect Dad, but the rumor's been around for a long time. All the buildings on Rokkenjima were built by Dad on his own. People have always guessed he had some contraption or secret room set up in this mansion that only he knew about. And it's always been whispered that hidden somewhere on this island, there's a secret mansion none of us know about. The Golden Land. I see. This island might look small on the map, but it is quite large for just a Shumia family to live on. So people have suspected that he built a secret mansion somewhere in the uncivilized forest for his mistress to live in. That would be quite a large-scale scheme. In the beginning, people thought it might be somewhere inside this mansion. That there might be a hidden basement with a fabulous hidden room where the witch in the portrait was secretly hiding. After seeing the intricate autolock on Dad's study, it isn't too hard to imagine, right? After all, Father did spread the rumor that a large amount of gold was hidden somewhere by some mechanism. I wouldn't be surprised if there existed some hidden room inside this very mansion that none of us know about yet. When Mother was still alive, she would often scour the entire mansion, searching for Father when he wasn't anywhere to be found. Mother also suspected what Rudolph just said. She believed there was a hidden door or stairway somewhere, and that his blonde-haired mistress was hidden behind it. It's hard to believe, but there are some actual examples in other countries of people cheating with someone over a period of several decades by making them live in a secret hidden attic room. Yeah. Furthermore, Kinzo had a mansion this extravagant. It was possible to suspect the existence of a hidden room. Could Beatrice come around for a sec and give us some red text, like there is no hidden room and stuff like that? Would be quite useful. From what I've heard, the legend of Rokkenjima's witch was just a fairy tale made up to scare children away from the uncivilized forest. But it's starting to sound like there's a little more to the story. Well, as you know, this is a lonely island without anything but the Shumia mansion on it. When Rosa and I were little brats on stormy nights, we got so scared by the sound of trees rustling in the direction of the forest. We had this crazy delusion that something weird might be looking out at us from between those trees. like there must be something in that forest, right? At least Beato, who we saw in episode 2, might actually be living there. That seems to be the case. I just wrote some things down on the note.
It's only natural for a brat to think of stuff like that. But when Rosa and I complained about it, some people figured it was more than a brat's imagination. Isn't that right, Heineke? Yeah, Nisan and I thought you might have coincidentally spotted Father's mistress living in secrecy on this island as she went out for a walk when no one was looking. Of course, Mother felt the same. Even among the older servants, you often heard the ghost story about how the witch of the portrait wanders the mansion at midnight. Outwardly, I laughed it off as just a ghost story, but on the inside, I suspected very much that it hinted at the existence of a hidden mistress.
In that case, you're saying that the existence of a 19th person might not be completely ridiculous? That there might actually be somewhere around here?
Sounds like one of those devil proofs Rudolph's always talking about.
Yeah.
It might be possible to prove that there is a 19th person, but it's impossible to prove that the 19th person doesn't exist.
See, and that's exactly what might have been the thing in the church during the second episode.
Should we continue this discussion under the assumption that there's a person named Beatrice hiding somewhere on this island? That's a good plan from the perspective of risk management. It's probably much more prudent to say she might exist rather than saying she couldn't exist.
I see. Sorry, I was a bit careless. Rosa-san, sorry for laughing just now.
Huh? Ah, it's fine. I don't mind. Hideyoshi apologized deeply for taking the worst-case scenario lightly, despite calling himself the president of a company. He really is the nicest. Like, have something awful about you. This guy is like similarly to George. Him and George are just so great, you know. Like they are the best possible person you could see. And this seems very weird to me. Like you can't be that nice, right? There must be something weird about you.
I mean, George is at least insecure. Yay. Silence fell again. Preparing for the existence of a 19th person would mean, in effect, acknowledging the presence of some unknown person hidden on this island. Hidden. And since this person might be planning something shady, it was only natural that the conversation would turn into an ominous direction. In the past, Father would sometimes suddenly disappear without telling anyone where he went. After all, he is a man who values silence. It wouldn't have been out of the ordinary for him to shut himself up in some library room after purposefully not telling anyone where he was going.
Short break. Mom was totally paranoid in her last years. She would sometimes suddenly start making a fuss, asking the servants to start looking for Dad immediately because of some urgent situation.
It's fine, I guess. Yeah, should fit like this.
Yes, that did happen sometimes. Mother was always doing things like that in her later years, and that frightening atmosphere still hasn't gone away. I can't say it for certain, huh? She was a person to be pitied.
So then, what happened with those large-scale searches of the house? Did they find anything?
No. Father wasn't caught foolishly in a hidden room even once. Anyways, after a long time had passed, he would suddenly show up somewhere. Then he would say that he had taken a nap in some library room, or that the wind had summoned him to take a walk on the beach. There was always some place where the servants had already looked. He never knew where Father had gone. Even at that time, Grandfather was famous for his occult inclinations, so some of the servants exaggerated, saying that he might have turned into butterflies and danced around the rose garden. But that can't be the case because he can't do magic. Idiots. So in short, Father frequently disappeared and no one knew where he went. Yeah. Since we couldn't find him no matter how much we looked inside the mansion, we got more and more sure that Dad might have been somewhere outside. But the area outside the mansion isn't large at all, which leaves only the forest. And if you tie that in with the legend of the witch, you get the theory like this. Father actually built a hidden mansion somewhere in the forest, inside of which a mistress by the name of Beatrice lived, and he sometimes went to see her. You think we'll go into the forest this time?
I was also young at the time. I was so eager to find where father was having his affair that at one time I followed him when he went outside. Of course, it was a failure. Every time father went out, he was oddly intent on avoiding places where he might be seen. He was extremely careful to prevent anyone from spotting him. And he was extraordinarily earnest in his attempts to do so. But that actually made me sure. He must have been going out for some reason that the members of his family couldn't know about. And that would be going to see his mistress? Probably trying to avoid being seen. After seeing Yoshi nod and say yes, yes, as though this was quite obvious, Ava got a little sullen. Well, anyway, this island was like a sketchbook in which father, with his Western obsession, could draw out all of his dreams. Everything about this island was exactly how father wanted it. It wouldn't be odd at all if there was a hidden mansion somewhere for his mistress to live in. Ava's words spoke for what all of the siblings had come to think. For a while the room returned to silence again, and everyone listened to the sound of the wind and rain. Was there a hidden mansion on this island, and had Kinso's mistress been living there in hiding for a long, long time? Everyone thought they were being too suspicious, and they hesitated for a long time before speaking. But everyone shared a common opinion. Kyrie, who had been listening the whole time with her eyes closed, spoke to no one in particular. How long has this rumor about father's mistress been around? As soon as we moved to this island, about 30 years ago. After all, it probably would have been impossible for him to have a hidden mansion built while we were here. People and materials would have to be going in and out. It would have been exposed quickly. So, if it was possible, it happened before we moved here. Probably it could have been built along with this mansion when we were still living in Udavara. Since father had to set up a double life with his family and his mistress, it's probably reasonable to assume that he had it all planned from the beginning. And his relationship with that mistress probably went back to the days when we lived in Udavara. Probably. If his father says she is the source of the vast amount of gold he used to gain the funds that resurrected the Shumia family, we could probably conclude that he had a close relationship since Odawara. Relationship trusting enough for her to lend him a vast quantity of gold. Can't even imagine how old the relationship must have been. Perhaps father gave her some kind of valuable advice for succeeding in business. It's natural to think that, out of a sense of gratitude for that, this person gave father the gold. If you think about it that way, it's obvious that they would have a close relationship after that. Rather than a festering relationship with a mistress, it was probably a relationship of gratitude to the person who saved the Shumia family from its crisis. Nice way to whitewash this. I don't know if what Natsuya-san saying has a ring of truth to it or not. But even in that case, isn't building a hidden mansion and having her live in it going a bit too far? Doesn't that mean they felt something a bit more than gratitude? Well, this is all just speculation. In the first place, no one's ever found that hidden mansion. Aniki, you were planning on expanding this island into a resort, right? As you were doing that, you didn't manage to stumble on it by chance, did you? Maybe you even bumped into some gold there too. Do you think Rokenjima has Treasure Island or something? Don't play dumb. We know that. Although you're saying you're opening a resort, you have already been planning to investigate the entire island, right? Judging by all the trouble and confusion we were talking about earlier, you haven't been very successful, have you? I don't know what you're talking about, but it's a misunderstanding. Isn't it perfectly natural that investigating this island would be the first step in turning it into a resort? Kraus tried to play dumb, but it was plenty obvious to his siblings who knew him so well. Kraus was definitely sure of the existence of a hidden mansion. And, under the pretense of opening a resort, he had been closely investigating the island, searching for a clue as to the location of the hidden gold. They couldn't tell whether that conviction was just him overthinking things, or whether it was based on some physical proof. Still, if Kraus, with all his guile, was sure, that was enough proof for the other siblings to be sure too. The story about a witch living in a forest is obviously a fairy tale. But the story about some blonde-haired girl living secretly in a mansion no one knows about in the middle of a forest isn't much better. That's right. That really should be just like a fairy tale. You like those, don't you, Rosa? Huh? Well... When the mansion was built on this island, Father was at the height of his prosperity. With his money, he could probably obtain anything, make anything of his wild imaginings real. A mansion in the forest where a witch quietly waits. It sounds like the kind of situation Father would like. Doesn't it? Like something from the occult or a fairy tale. It feels like Dad's kind of hobby. On this island, on which the Oshamiya family had lived for 30 years now, a hidden mansion that no one knew about had been quietly built to house a witch, about whom nothing was known except what could be guessed from a portrait. Even this hastily thrown together theory might not be completely delusional, considering all of Kinzo's strange habits and his vast wealth. It might not have been impossible for Father to build a hidden mansion to satisfy his dreams. However, let's be realistic. Would it be possible to house his beloved woman in that hidden mansion for decades without becoming inconvenient? Well, if there was love, it could have been doable, right? Think of the facilities needed to let his beloved woman live healthily, in a way that would satisfy Father. For example, even if it was on a small scale, it would have to be an intricate and pleasant residence. And it would probably need to have electricity, gas, and running water maintained, as well as some people to see to her needs. Even cooking would be quite difficult. She would need clothes and makeup, the daily necessities. The needs of a woman aren't simple. Would it be possible to maintain all of that without any of the family or the servants noticing? When you say it that way, it sure sounds like a weak point in our theory. But that isn't enough to get rid of my feeling that Dad might have been able to do it anyway. After all, it's Dad we're talking about. That's right. It's our father. If Father wanted to succeed in an endeavor, he would surely he would succeed no matter what. Saying that something would be difficult for a normal person and therefore impossible doesn't apply when it comes to Father. Indeed. You should never underestimate Father. Father's madness can't be understood by normal people. I wouldn't put it past that, Kinzo. As long as you stick to his phrase, a considerable amount of credibility can dwell in any episode story. However, that didn't cause the importance of what Curious had said to waver. This was different from stealthily raising a kitten in a card box and keeping it a secret from your parents. Taking care of a person in secret over a period of 30 years would be an incalculable, massive task. You know what, the face cam is just annoying me right now. I'm going to remove it for now. And bye bye. I'm gone. And when I air this episode in like a few days, I'll just wait before I record anything else, before I've uploaded this one. And if anyone wants to say, hey, I like the face cam, keep it on, or it's unnecessary, keep it off, I'll just decide on depending on that. So let's have the third version now, where we just go without face cam. And in that case, we can also push you into the right size. Like this, I assume. Yeah. After all, Father's legend of the gold started before he gained possession of Rokkenjima. That would mean his relationship with his mistress was over 30 years long. How old would that make her? In the worst case, she could be as old as us, or older, right? By that age, the body starts to break down. I don't care what the mansion's like. I wouldn't use the word agreeable to describe living in a place where people's eyes can reach. Almost like she was under house arrest. That's right. If what Father told us about Beatrice is true, then that relationship has lasted for over 30 years. She might have been a charming young woman at that time, but it probably makes sense to assume she's an old bag like us now. It needs to be symmetrical. Can easily imagine that, given the contents of the letter. You should talk. Charles laughed, as if none of this applied to him. Of course, Ava was offended, but she didn't strike back. Great, Aniki. So if everything we're thinking's true, then she should be joining in on Dad's inheritance problem with her head held high. After all, there's a good chance their love was mutual, unlike with Mom. Even if she knows she's his mistress, she might also be proud to be his true wife. That is an insult to Mother. Yeah, sorry. However, everyone knows that it was a political marriage decided on by the elders among his relatives. Because of that, it definitely wouldn't be strange for Dad to have a mistress. I see now where all the extra time went we didn't have during the day. The family sank after the Great Kanto earthquake, and Father was set up as the Ushomia family head against his will. However, in the beginning, the elder relatives treated Kinzo like a dummy and influenced him powerfully, almost like he was a puppet. He wasn't permitted to decide anything by himself, not even his marriage partner. Ever since he met the Golden Witch Beatrice in those distant days, Kinzo's legend of the gold was quickly embellished into something dramatic. In other words, it could mean that Kinzo really did find a woman he loved. If she also knew the whole story, even if they weren't marriage partners, it would have been odd for her to consider herself his true wife inside her heart. It wouldn't. And now the person registered as his true wife was already dead. Which means she could feel confident staking her claim, not just for the right of his assets, but regarding the battle over the headship too. I see. I'm starting to see the purpose of this letter. The headship goes to the one who solves the riddle of the epitaph. Is that what it means? Even if that mistress was added to the family ranking system, she isn't a direct relative of Father. Surely would be inferior to even the children. In other words, she would be one step below Rosa in rank. That wouldn't be a good position to enter the battle for the headship from. I see, so that's it. If someone can solve the witch's riddle, they'll get the headship regardless of rank. In other words, it's the most advantageous condition Beatrice could possibly get, since she's got no chance otherwise. The revival of the Ushomia family was made possible by the gold Beatrice had bestowed. It was quite a distinguishing service she had provided. She had built that wealth together with Kinzo, so it was natural that she would think of herself as the one who should inherit it. It would also be natural for her to despise the thought of giving it up to the children of the wife Kinzo never loved. How could she be so impudent? Even if such a mistress actually exists, joining in on the battle for the rights to the inheritance would be reckless action far above her place. Have disregard for her own position. Natsuhi turned red, her fist quivering. She had also come into the Ushomia register due to complicated circumstances. Those who knew that understood well or less why she was so angry for the sake of Kinzo's dead wife. I'm not talking much about it right now because there's a lot of just theorizing going on and ideas of what could be the case. And the biggest problem here is if we are so openly discussing this idea already at this stage in episode 3, then in all likelihood it is just wrong. But also if we discuss it at such length like this right now, there needs to be some truth to it. So the obvious idea would double entendre, would be that we actually go to the forest this episode because we believe that the murderer who killed all the people that will soon die is actually hiding there, and thus we go to investigate and then somehow finds a hidden mansion and so on and so forth. Well, thanks to that reckless action of hers, we all have an even chance now, right? Father has even given it his silent approval. Will the person who succeeds the Ushomia family be his mistress Beatrice, or one of us, the relatives he doesn't love? Maybe he wants to make us struggle over that to see who's worthy. As Eva giggled roguishly, Kraus shrugged his shoulders and looked away. However, since she's the one who brought this rule to light in the first place, maybe that means it gives her a significant advantage. That's right. In the first place, if Beatrice meant that letter literally, then she's father's alchemist. In other words, she's the manager of his gold. Wouldn't it be strange at all? It wouldn't be strange at all if she knew where it was hidden, would it? Isn't that harsh? It's like she's giving us a riddle she knows the answer to. She'd probably show up brutally, say, "Hey, here's the answer, I'll take the headship now," and snatch away everything from us. That's right. The person who brings up a riddle always knows the answer. There's a good chance that this is all a trap to steal everything from us. If you think about it like that, don't you start to doubt whether she really had any gold in the first place? Why would she tell us about it? All she has to do is keep quiet and embezzle it. It really is strange. That certainly was the case. If the epitaph shows the way to the hidden gold, why would she challenge them to try and solve it? If they actually did solve it, wouldn't the gold all be stolen from her? Could it be that this person was trying to stir the siblings up so they would solve the epitaph, and then plan to steal it away at the last second? It was an extremely logical possibility. No, if you spin the chessboard around, there might be a pretty good chance that they actually do have the gold. Why are you so certain? Wait, Aniki. Curie, please keep talking. Why do you think that? After all, do they really think we'll let go of the Ushomiya family headship, just because someone tells us the answer to the riddle in the witch's epitaph? That we'll be so impressed by the answer that we'll just give up? Well, that's true. No way they are so naive that they assumed we would just give up after being told the answer to a riddle, that we'll just say, "Here you go," and hand it over. Of course, the headship to the Ushomiya family is not something that can be handed over so easily. That's exactly it. No matter how Beatrice might one-sidedly propose a game like this, even if she were to spectacularly show us the answer, there's no way we would obediently hand over the headship. In other words, unless she has a compelling force in the form of challenging us to a game with equal conditions for us all, this won't truly count as a game. You're right. Unless the losers have no choice but to give up on the headship. Because of a compelling force, this won't really count as a game. And what might this compelling force be? Would they bind us in chains and threaten us into heading over the headship? I see. I get it. They would just have to do something to make us want to give up the headship willingly. Yes, I see. To do that, Beatrice would have to own 10 tons of gold. I see. I get it too. In other words, it's a trade. Huh? What do you mean? A trade? Trade what? The Ushomiya family headship for the hidden gold. Beatrice surely plans to tell us the location of the 10 tons of gold and use that as a bribe to gain the Ushomiya family headship. Ridiculous! They want to trade the headship of the glorious Ushomiya family for money? That's blasphemy! Blasphemy against the Ushomiya family! Please listen without getting mad. About how much wealth does this glorious Ushomiya family have right now? Are we really that affluent? The definition of affluence is not dependent on property. It is about heart. Our financial situation has nothing to... Klaus interrupted Natsui as she started to go on and on emotionally. The situation, the more she went on like that, the worse it would actually sound. Me aside, I hear your current situations are quite unfavorable. Oh, really? I've heard that your financial situation's really bad too. Offering up more and more as collateral for new money to gamble with. Repeatedly dabbling in new gambles, unable to accept your losses. If we count what's going on behind the scenes, you're in even bigger financial straits than the rest of us. Just how much money have you lost, Nissan? You have no talent. Who are you saying he has no talent? What do you mean, financial straits? Natsuki became indignant once more, but Kraus raised his hand again and interrupted her. It seems you are making a small mistake. Business is not something that can be judged based on current progress alone. For someone with a long-term outlook on business such as myself, it may sometimes appear at a glance that I have suffered significant short-term losses. Aniki, we've been collecting evidence. Your position right now isn't one to be proud of. Okay, so the previous talk didn't happen. Well, this is what Curie is trying to say. Every one of us has got money troubles, and Beatrice has 10 tons of gold. As the only person who knows the location of the 10 tons of gold, Beatrice is planning on using it to force us to sell the head trip. About how much is 10 tons of gold worth? Rough estimate, let's say 2 billion yen. No, 20 billion yen. Is that much piled up? We would be ecstatic to accept her as the successor. Yeah, but then why not just come out and say it? The scene returned to silence. In fact, the rain and wind felt even noisier now. It was probably the sound of the windstorm racing through the insides of their minds. This isn't funny. To think we would give up the headship to some woman of doubtful origin, just because she had a little money stored up? Don't be stupid. The headship wasn't even yours in the first place, right? We've got nothing to lose and money to gain. We'll have to calculate our profit and loss, but it's something worth listening to. They knew that Kraus had eaten up much of the Yoshimiya family's assets. Such was dregs that remained of that inheritance, versus the cost of being accepted as the head that Beatrice would pay. It was a shame, but honestly, the former was less enticing than the latter. Well, it probably wouldn't end up as 4 equal portions. Since Aniki would be giving up his position of successor, his portion would have to be larger. Makes me feel kinda jealous, you know. Dear, the amount of money isn't the problem, right? Your cowardly younger siblings are trying to sell the glory of the Ushimiya family for money. Don't you see? Why aren't you displaying your dignity as the oldest son? Natsui, stay quiet for a while. Dear? The only ones who really care about the family are Eva and Natsui, are they? Like the rest just want the money. This is dizzying. It's a dizzying proposal. With each playing on getting 250 million yen out of Aniki. If it which trades us with 10% of those 10 tons. Good that you have Korea. That's 2 billion. Yeah. It would mean she's treating us with 10 times our original goal. That alone would be more than enough for us. It's not like I've got any attachment to the Shomiya name. I would be happy to sell it off. Even if 10 tons is a slightly optimistic figure, yes, it will still be a fascinating prospect for us. We were trying to form an alliance among the siblings to kick this outsider called Beatrice out. But if this is her plan, it will tear apart the unity between us. Yeah, by this point we can state it clearly. The goal of Beatrice's letter was to disturb our alliance. Are we sure about that? Maybe. If the 3 younger siblings who had never had anything to do with the inheritance were paid enough money to satisfy them, they would happily accept Beatrice as their new next head. A moat had been dug all around Kraus. In that case, the negotiations would be one-on-one between her and Kraus. He tried to look strong, but Kraus's financial and political situation was extremely weak. He might bluff in front of his siblings, but on the inside he was considering entering negotiations, depending on the sum of money involved. In order to bury his losses, Kraus had taken advantage of the fact that Kinzo had shut himself up in his room and had embezzled Kinzo's personal assets. Therefore, when Kinzo died and the inheritance was distributed, Kraus' situation would probably be investigated. But if he gave up his seat as the head to Beatrice, she would also receive rights to the assets, and as a result, the distribution of the inheritance to the siblings would not occur. In other words, Kraus' embezzlement might not have to be made known to the other siblings. Of course, the siblings were frightened of Kinzo, but it was doubtful whether they still actually respected him as a father. By this time, they each had their own families, their own wealth, and their own lives. If they paid enough money in exchange for Rokkenjima, the record of Kinzo's dreams, there was a significant likelihood that they would relinquish the Yoshimiya family name. In other words, Beatrice's victory was already guaranteed in this game, not as the winner of Beatrice's game, but as the winner of Kinzo's game. Kinzo once ordered that the epitaph be put on display, and until today no one had solved it. So Beatrice solved it. In other words, this is less of a game and more like Beatrice's declaration of victory. However, Curie still thought there still might be a catch. If this was a declaration of victory, Beatrice would only have had to display the gold openly and set her intent to buy the inheritance. Exactly, like why it goes through all of this trouble. And yet she had gone to all of this trouble, telling the siblings to try and solve the epitaph. Why did she set up this new game, where she agreed to hand over all of the gold and the inheritance to the epitaph solver? Curie tried spinning this chessboard around several times. She searched for the sort of ideal strategy Beatrice might be after, something that could lead to this kind of thinking. In the end, she reached a single conclusion. Could it be arrogance? Or maybe she's playing? What are you talking about? The witch sent us a letter of challenge, forcing us to try and solve the epitaph. She might be taking us lightly, thinking we could never solve it. However, at the very least, there ought to be an extremely small chance that we do solve it. After all, we are four of father's children by blood, right? The questionnaire called together our four blood relatives who, if they tried frantically to work together and avoid having those assets stolen from them, might come across the answer of the riddle by chance. The reason the witch had a superior position in negotiations compared to the siblings was that only she knew the location of the hidden gold. But if that hiding place was exposed to someone other than her, the witch's advantage would crumble. In short, Beatrice gains nothing but risk by writing this witch's letter of challenge. Of course, it might have had the effect of splitting apart the siblings' alliance, but if that was her only goal, why would she take this risk, however slight it might be? That seems reckless to me. But if you keep in mind a certain type of emotion, that risk becomes comprehensible. And you're saying it's arrogance? Yes, that's right. When people have an overwhelming advantage, they tend to get arrogant. And when they do, they want to show off that advantage to the losers, so they sometimes take on small risks. We have heard exactly these words about Beatrice and her magic game of Battler, haven't we? Like, that's exactly what Beatrice is doing. It fits her very nicely. A moderate amount of risk adds a little spice to the joy of victory. It would be boring to win without any risk. I understand. I like that kind of thing too. Yeah, I understand it well. I thought of a few plausible explanations for the true motive behind Beatrice's letter, but I think this really might be the truth. The emotion hidden behind that letter was arrogance. Arrogance. She's trying to throw her weight around, looking down on us as if there's no way we could figure out such a difficult epitaph. It might even be possible, if surprising, that this epitaph wasn't written by father, but by her. Sounds great. Solves the riddle of the epitaph, she says. Someone already tried that. If only I solved it, I would be made the head, right? I'll solve it. I'll accept the witch's challenge. If those other idiot siblings could solve it, I'll solve it by myself, and I'll prove that I'm the one who's fit to succeed the Yoshimiya family. I'll take that challenge. I will. Solve the riddle. Yep. It's still broken. Damn it. I'll try to fix it by the end of this recording. Only 9 PM still. Would have expected midnight to come along. Huh? Oh. Hi, Bergo. I see. She's not a witch, but a mistress named Beatrice who lived on the island. So there can be more than 80 people. Which means I can defeat the line of reasoning that says any crime impossible for all 18 people must involve magic. That's a big scoop. Pardon me, Battler Summer, would you like some black tea and cookies? Beatus Butler, who called himself Ronove, appeared out of nowhere. A plate set on a silver tray that he held was filled with delicious-looking, steaming black tea and cookies. I really don't like this guy's smile. For some reason, it doesn't look like a smile used to warmly greet a guest. It feels like he's mocking me somehow. I don't know if he really takes me for an idiot, or if it's just a joke or something, but it's really irritating me. I don't need any. I'm busy now. Leave me alone. Oh my. Such a shame, and these cookies were so delicious too. Cooked so wonderfully they would be wasted on a mere human. I'll eat some when I feel like it. Just set it down somewhere and get out of here. Will that be acceptable? Then I shall do so. You may eat them when they get cold and stale, and then regret to the fullest that you did not eat them while they were fresh. You really are annoying. Well, you're a lot better than that bear who keeps doing the creepy cackle right next to my ear. And go. Oh. Yes, that is quite true. There are times when my lady's laughter becomes quite undignified. Every time I hear it, I find it painful to comprehend. Why such a noble demon as myself must serve such a master. Man, you're weird. If you don't like it, then couldn't you just not work for her? And yet, to continue serving is furniture's joy. If we do not serve, we could hardly be furniture. Setting that aside, has the game been proceeding? Just now you seem to have found some useful information that quite pleased you. Well now, I wonder what your shadow wit has conjured up. As Renaud mocked me and giggled, he followed my earlier words literally and placed the black tea and cookies in a random spot nearby. In any case, it appears you are now more confident in the existence of a 19th person, yes? Would you be so gracious to allow me to hear your opinion? Yeah, sure. I'm just going to say it again in front of Beato anyway. No reason to hide it. Basically, it looks like there's a hidden mansion somewhere on this island, and his grandfather and his mistress living there. And the questions been torturing me about whether there are 18 or 19 people can be easily solved. You have driven yourself into a corner because of the dead end that you yourself have created. Even though you deny the witch battler, Summer, you held a double standard and refused to accept that the culprit is one of the 18. The easiest way to deny the witch would be to suspect one of the 18. It isn't easy to gather alibis for every one of them. You always find at least one person with a fragile alibi. I could probably continue to deny the witch forever if I just used the person as a scapegoat. Yeah, Genji. However, I refuse to do that. It's useless. It's all useless. Every one of those 18 people is either a parent, a relative, or a cousin to me. And those reliable servants who are sometimes serious and sometimes fun to be with. I won't let myself use any of them as a scapegoat. In the past, my resolve favored. That's how Beato hit me where my heart was weak. Accepting and understanding one's own weakness. It is not something that can often be accomplished. That last summer, you used the theory about the 19th person as a spear. Or should I say, a shield? In any way, in contrast to how unprepared you were in the previous game, the fact you now have a compass bearing on how to fight is a dramatic leap forward, let us say. With this, you can suspect the 19th person and pursue your theory that the culprit is a human, without having to doubt any of the 18 you love and respect. That's it, exactly. And now Revo is going to tell us that there are only 18 people. Like in the first game when Kanonko was killed in the boiler room. There were plenty of tricks I could have mentioned without hesitation, as long as the 19th person existed. In the very first game, Kanon was killed in the boiler room. One night, he was attacked by one might think he was attacked by Kumasawa's son, who had gone down in the boiler room with him. Or maybe that someone who had appeared to be dead earlier was actually faking and had ambushed him. Either way, it was a move that forced me to suspect one of us 18. However, by simply proposing that the 19th person existed, there was no longer any need to suspect one of the 18 for that murder in the boiler room. In short, I can at least deny the line of reasoning saying that, if something is impossible for every one of the 18, therefore the culprit is a witch. Using this argument, it's easy to explain, for example, the problematic case that has already occurred in this game. Who gave Maria the letter? Even if all 18 people have alibis, I could easily explain everything by saying that the 19th person must must have visited her and given her the letter. So far, so good. Where's the counter? I would say that's quite a good move. Now, how would I strike back against it? You still have plenty of weak points, even if you are aware of them. Maybe the 18-person attack would be an effective move. To judge the strength of your defense, it may be amusing to contest that point again. Then how will you do it, Demon Butler? I believe it would be appropriate to ambush the piece representing this 19th person that you mentioned. Battler Summer, you have never met this 19th person, yes? Would you please show some proof that this 19th person exists? How naive. Of course, I knew you'd probably try that move. My. Please respond to it. Witches and demons and the like. There's no more fitting move for you guys to use. It's one of those... devil's proofs. Objection. When you try to make some claim to humans like us, we always counterattack by telling you to show some proof. Because that's a human move. And I'm fighting with a witch. I'm taking part in a battle with someone who isn't human. And some moves exist that can only be used in a game against a witch. They are cheap moves. That's what this devil's proof is. Because it's impossible to prove. Let's assume that there's a hidden mansion in Rokkenjima, separate from the Ushomiya family mansion, that a woman named Beatrice lives there. In order to prove this, one must find this mansion and actually bring Beatrice out of it. That's called actual proof in the human world. However, if you follow the rule of the devil's proof, you can't deny that she exists, even if there's no proof that she does. Because it's impossible to prove that something doesn't exist. That's right, I'm finally able to turn the tables using the devil's proof, which tormented me so much before. Those guys were always trying to force me to accept the existence of the witch with it. After all, it was physically impossible for me to show any proof that the witches don't exist and deny Beato's claims. That's why I kept getting hit with the reckless argument that witches do exist, and was unable to counterattack. And that's why I'll spin the chessboard around right now. I can't disprove the existence of witches, and that means... I suggest that the 19th person a human exists. You can't deny that either. In other words, because this problematic and mysterious mistress is craftily hiding herself, it would be perfectly natural if you never found her no matter how hard you looked. So you can't say that your inability to find this 19th person proves that she doesn't exist. Therefore, it's impossible to deny the 19th person's existence. Beata used the devil's proof to make denying her own existence impossible, but this time it's become my weapon. If we can get away with this argument, then just forget about the 19th person. This island could be full of people we don't know about. And even if there were 10 or 100 of them, she still couldn't deny that they existed. In the last game and the one before that, among the murder scenes that showed up, there were several that were extremely intricate and must have taken a lot of effort to set up. It's really hard to imagine a single culprit setting up all of those. However, if not just the 19th person, but 10 or 100 people were hidden somewhere, that wouldn't be any problem at all. If they all split up the work, they could handle any job in a short period of time. Of course, doubt will naturally arise as to whether a large group of people like that could sneak around the mansion without being noticed, but those are all settled by devil's proof. You can't deny that even 100 people, whether just because they weren't seen or noticed. Even though I'm saying it myself, it's such a stupid argument that it makes me want to throw up. However, because it's such a dirty move, it's a perfect one to use against a witch. Well, this is just my imagination, but what if about 100 suspicious men wearing goat masks were hiding in the shadows? Something like that's worse than laughable, almost like they're cockroaches. If you see one, it means there's 100 more hiding somewhere. Well, I don't think it's a ridiculous argument, it's horribly twisted. If my opponents were human, I'm sure they would yell at me like I was out of my mind. But my opponent is a witch. And after all, that's the kind of competition we're having, isn't it? I'll use any kind of reckless argument to explain it using humans and deny the witch. Anyway, with this move, I won't have to doubt any of the 18 people who are close to me. I won't suffer a defeat like last time. I see. You have learned from your previous defeat. That is good. It's no surprise that you've become so devious now that you're in your third game. You first strengthen your own defense. That is truly a solid first step. Quite a spectacular move, I would say. Well, even if you do assume that there's a 19th person, there are still a few tricks left that I can't resolve, like the actual number of master keys, no matter how many humans I add. Still, it isn't bad as a first step for the time being. Battler Summer, your trump card is the important piece called the 19th person. You countered my move of asking what the proof was by using the devil's proof. A good skirmish, although I must apologize for making a move by myself when my lady isn't here. I find that I too am growing slightly interested. However, if you allow me to make yet another move on my lady's behalf. Let's have it. There are only 18 people on this island. I've got no shortage of opponents, be they witches or demons. This move you presented, called the Devil's Proof. It's a specialty of us demons, but there are also various other moves available to us. Do you know of a move called Hempel's Raven? Nope. Never heard of it. Devil's Proof, yes. Hempel's Raven, no. Hempel's Raven? What are you talking about? Just then. Ah, the enraging laugh I've heard so many times are echoing. The room was filled with dazzling gold butterflies, and in the center of that whirlwind the Golden Witch appeared. If it isn't my lady, good morning. I thought you might be doing something interesting while I was away. Hempel's Raven, was it? Such a familiar old move I could almost laugh. To think the day has come, I get to show it off to Battler. It's a classic move to use against the Devil's Proof. Oh no, I will make this move. Do not get in this way of my fun. So you're finally showing up, you guffering, gwaffing witch. I see, you're laughing like a freak as usual. This guy was talking behind your back just now, telling me how undignified you look when you do that. Right? How rude. Is that true? Nonsense. Why would I speak such gossip about my lady, whom I regard with such sincere respect? I can't believe you would say something so shameless. Doesn't look like we'll be getting along well together. Well, that's fine. Let us return to the point at hand. Hempel's Raven is used to show actual proof using the contrapositive. In other words, it is a move like this. What must you do to prove that ravens are black? Prove that they aren't white, blue, red, or whatever else. What are you talking about? Prove that ravens are black? Wouldn't you just have to catch a raven and check to see if it's black? That's right. You must simply prove that the raven equals black. Do you see that if you instead prove that birds that aren't black are not ravens, you would reach the same argument? This way, okay. The other way around. If you go through the world and examine all birds that are not ravens and prove that none of them are black, as a result, you can claim that therefore black birds are ravens. This is called an argument by the contrapositive. Is that too difficult for you? Yeah, no kidding. I've got no idea what you're saying. Battler Summer, what about this example? Let us say that you have two boxes, and one of them is a winner with a cookie inside. Of course, the other one is a loser and is empty. Yeah, I have to prove that if you open one of the boxes and find a cookie, that also implies that the other one has no cookie. For example, here are two boxes, where one has a cookie inside and means you win, while the other is empty and means you lose. This moment is as a cookie inside equals you win, which implies that you do not win if it had no cookie inside. When such a relationship exists, the latter is called the contrapositive. When, if A then B is true, then if not B, then not A is also true. Well, that's obvious. If the one you guessed was a loser, then you would automatically know that the other one was the winner. In other words, if you choose the box at random, whether it's the winner or the loser, you're able to figure out which box has the cookie in after your first move. Huh. So how would that work with the 19th person? To prove that they do not exist? I know we have to prove that witches exist? Nah.
That is correct. If the cookie is in the box you open, then the devil's proof is satisfied. You can directly prove that this box is a winner, this box has a cookie in it. However, if the box you open is empty, then the reverse, Hampel's raven, is satisfied. In other words, the box does not have a cookie in it, thus this box isn't the winner. And as long as we accept the premise that there are no more than 2 boxes, the contrapositive shows that the other box is automatically the winner. Well, that things that I'm starting to see your reasoning. Only poison can stop poison, and only twisted logic can stop twisted logic. Then what? How does that overturn my claim that because there's definitely a 19th human here on the island, even if all people have alibis, I still would accept witches? Very well, I will teach you about my move. First of all, you are stating that the culprit is not among the 18th, equals the culprit is a 19th person. Yeah. So if you use the contrapositive, it ends up like this. In short, the culprit is not a 19th person, equals the culprit is one of the 18th. Yeah. Huh? What do you mean? Yeah, I got that one either. Only that I've countered your move. Let's try and keep things simple. Bruno, explain. It seems you've made things easy enough for better to understand with your cookie in a box technology. Then forgive my presumption. Allow me to explain my earlier example once more. Allow me to repeat my earlier story about the 2 treasure boxes, one of which has a cookie in it. In this situation, you have an 18-person box and a 19th-person box. So, the cookie represents the culprit. Battler Summer, let's say you open the 18-person box. Because the cookie is not there, you have paradoxically proven that therefore the cookie is in the 19th-person box. That let us make an even more paradoxical claim. In other words, if it was first shown that the 19th person box was empty, it would prove at the same time the cookie is in the 18th person box. Battler played this move in order to avoid having to doubt any of the 18, but it's now been used to prepare an 18-person attack. Ugh. What the hell? If I go first and prove that the inside of the 19th person box is empty, you will automatically have to accept that the cookie is in the 18-person box. All I've done is say it's the other way around, yes? So, the move I was so confident in was actually a double-edged sword? That's right. As soon as you played that move and attempted to explain everything with a 19th person, you'd already taken on a risk that you might be forced to accept that the culprit was one of the 18. Yep. So that's what we are playing at this night? I see. Hampel's Raven. So this is a countering technique? Wait, if I really think about it, this counter is really disadvantageous for me. This isn't a cookie we are talking about. If I imagine that the loser treasure chest actually has a bomb in it, it gets even clearer. And there aren't just 2 treasure chests, but 18 plus 1 more for the 19th person. If you think of it as a total of 19 boxes, it gets even easier to picture. First off, one of the premises of the human culprit theory is that the bomb will definitely be in one of these boxes. I didn't want to place the bomb in the boxes for any of the 18, so I used the devil's proof and created the 19th person box so I could throw the bomb in there. That much was fine, but then Berto struck back. Now, if the content of the 19th person box are empty, that will automatically mean that the box is in one of the other 18 boxes. If I could examine what's inside all 18 of those boxes, then as long as I can show that the bomb isn't in any of them, I'll be able to safely show that the 18 are innocent. If that were possible, I would have nothing to fear. However, in reality, that will be almost impossible. The police wouldn't come here in this typhoon. We don't have access to scientific investigations or experts or anything. In short, we can't prove anything decisively. It will be impossible for me to find any proof other than simply gulping down whatever alibis each of the 18 give. That means I personally have to prove their innocence, and I have to do it perfectly. Like by staying with them the whole time, never letting them out of my sight for a second. By doing that, I could probably be sure of that person's innocent. Sure that the bomb isn't in their box. However, in practical terms, that will be impossible. In other words, I would have to expend an incredible effort just to check the content of one box. And there are 18 of them. In other words, unless I bound all 18 of them in chains and watch all over them, it would be impossible to prove that all of them have empty boxes.
Oh god. However, Berto has only to open one box, the 19th person box, and show that it's empty to prove that the bomb's in one of the other 18 boxes. Furthermore, there's no need for her to show which of the 18 boxes has the bomb. I've got 18 times more work to do to explain my pet theory than Beatrice does for hers. Yeah, but how does she prove that the 19th person doesn't exist? Or at least isn't the culprit? When a devil's proof exists in the world, it takes a vast amount of effort to argue against it, and there are many cases in which it is impossible to do because of the situation. However, Hempel's Raven turns that problem around and makes it impossible to prove things easily. By using Hempel's Raven, various reckless arguments become possible to prove true or false. For example, let us say I make the proposition all humans except me equals foolish. Normally, I would have to examine all of humanity except myself and show that they are all foolish. However, in reality, it would be impossible to investigate billions of people. It's just the same sort of effort you would need to open all 18 boxes. However, by using Hempel's Raven, the contrapositive of the proposition would change into this. If you, to use your phrase, spin the chessboard around on the claim that all humans except me equals foolish, you would have to do nothing more than prove that not foolish equals me. And what do you think that means? As soon as I know that fact, that I am wise, I will be able to show in an instant that every one of the 18 billion people in the human race is foolish. In less than a second, I could finish proving that the entire human race is more foolish than me. It truly is the strongest and fastest quad-error demonstrandum in the world. This is Hempel's Raven. What a ridiculous argument. It is very, very convenient move. Not only do demons, but gods also use it. When they propose that the blessed equals the servants of a god, the contrapositive is a human is not a servant of a god, he must not be blessed. So, in order to prove that the servants of God are blessed with divine protection, they only have to bring ill fortune down upon those people who don't receive such protection. So by bringing misfortune upon those who don't believe in them, they prove their blessedness. An enormous cost is required to give humans happiness. However, it takes a lot less to bring humans misfortune. So by using Hempel's Raven, gods are actually giving believers the joy of divine protection for cheap. You demon! It's a demon's argument. That's crazy! It seems we've gone off topic. Let us get back to the point. The move for my counterattack is complete. And now, in response to your claim of the 19th person is a culprit, therefore the 18 are innocent and the witch doesn't exist, I say, therefore, if I can prove that the culprit is not some 19th person, we can be sure that the culprit is either one of the 18 or a witch. Right? Okay. For a while I just stood there shocked, completely forgetting to close my mouth. Just when I had thought I had countered one of their strong points, their counterattack had been this reckless argument that I couldn't possibly have anticipated. Is this gonna be impossible after all? To continue denying the witch on an island with no more than 18 people? I mean, let me be quite mean, this is awful for Battler and the story in this way. But if Beatrice actually proves it, it would be quite nice for me, because now I have solid evidence that it must be one of the 18, because we don't accept witches here. And still, believe in the innocence of those 18 people. Is that just a delusion? Am I just trying to escape reality? Maybe. I find it hard to figure out whether the story will actually make one of the 18 the killer or not, because it pushes hardly against... hardly, the wrong word. Strongly against it. Not yet. Don't give up this desperate struggle yet. Who cares about whoever roots Raven? They're just trying to confuse me by bringing up weird bits of trivia. I use the devil's proof. Don't feel uncertain about something you've done once. I believe in the spear you've drawn. And then forcefully gouge in it. We are still in the opening part of the game. Do you plan to keep sinking on this level? Wait a sec. I want to be sure. I'll admit I'll talk about the 19th person to keep it simple, but if you're going to use a devil's proof to raise the number of people above 18, and we would have no way of knowing if there were 10 people, 100 people, or an indeterminate number of people. There's always one more than you assume. Get it? They countered my twisted logic with something even more twisted. But the only thing that could counter that would be even crazier twisted logic. I see. Even as I somehow prove an alibi for the 90th person, as soon as I do, you will think up a 20th person and claim that they are the culprit. By repeating this endlessly, you might make it so I kept searching for the alibis for all eternity. I see. Just like a king, demon king summoning a plague of locusts. I wouldn't expect anything less from Kinzo's grandchild. It looks like you have been gifted with a talent in summoning. In short, it's impossible to always prove an alibi for each person X outside of the first 18. How do you like that, Berto? Now that I know we are having a battle with twisted logic, I won't lose. How foolish. What do you think I am? I'm the Endless Witch. The thought that you could challenge me endlessly is just absurd. Endless control means that I am able to kill endlessly. When your 90th person folds, you will summon a 70th. And when a 20th person folds, you will summon a 21st. And when your 21 person folds, and your 22nd person folds, you will summon a 23rd person, a 24th, a 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5,000 million billion trillion quadrillion 6 quadrillion 435 trillion 223 billion 579 million 633,204th person. Did you think you would have me at your mercy for all eternity? I laugh at infinite regress. The infinite doesn't work against me. Now we're doing math or what? Well then, how will you kill my endless? Just try and show me. Red text. Yeah. I have the power to speak the truth in red. Ugh. Here it comes. When I speak in red, it will contain absolutely no illusions. If I say once in red that there are no more than 100 people on this island, you will no longer be permitted to create the 101st person. See, battler? What truth shall I tell in red this time? Where shall I strike for the kill and force you into hopelessness? Come, show me your usual frightened face. I really want that statement. What? Why are you laughing? I wonder what kind of creepy look I had on my face as I laughed right then. The red sure is scary. Every time it jumps out, I'm driven into depths of hopelessness. But I've already realized something. There's no need to be overly afraid of the red. You've brought out your trump card again. So, how and for what will Beatrice Summer use the red this time? Oh? What do you mean by that? Suddenly looking so relaxed. Sorry, I was waiting for you to take out that blood-red treasured sword of yours. Let's see, what you proclaim in red this time. You aren't going to say the culprit was one of those 18 people, are you? Be careful, since that would mean self-destruction for you, right? It would be the same as throwing away your own witch theory yourself. A complete resignation. That's right, the red wasn't always a weapon that worked in Beato's favor alone. It was the other way around. If you used it the wrong way, it was dangerous enough that she could bring about her own death. If you used it carelessly and said something that ended up denying herself, that would be exactly the same as self-destructing. Of course, it would be sad and difficult for me, except if you told me in red that one of the 18 was the culprit. No matter who the culprit actually was, I would definitely have to deal with some tough emotions. But before that, it would mean your defeat. Saying in red that the culprit is a human is equivalent to your proclamation of resignation. If you wanted us to finish each other off in a simultaneous clash, I would say that's a pretty interesting move. However, this particular battle will end in my victory. Beatrice's red was a true trump card. And the person speaks in red is definitely the truth, and no amount of proof or counter-arguments can change that. Until now, she's used that to severely wound me, and each time the tiny foundation supporting my heart gets split in half. However, if you use it with carelessly, there can also gleam a little information about the truth. In the last game, I used that to my advantage, especially during the chapel's closed room trick, and almost completely got her boxed in at one point. But she was pretty sly herself. She learned from experience, and since then she started using discretion and the timing of her red. This feeling of tension was almost literally like a battle with real swords. This is a high-level intellectual battle. No, not an intellectual battle. This really is twisted logic. This was the world's craziest and worst battle of twisted logic. Okay, now it's time to your plan. That's right. To use your Hampel's Raven, first you have to confirm in red how many humans there are other than the 18. After that, if you proclaim in red that none of the people in this group are the culprit, that's right, that might be a fatal wound to me. I'm surprised you no longer have even an atom of fear for the red, which once terrified you so much. You're quite resilient. Try taking it out. The treasured sword, the trump card of yours. This time you might be able to make me surrender with a single stroke, right? Interesting. I wouldn't have it any other way. Agitate her, challenge her. Drive her into a corner to make her speak in red. Of course, her reds are always wiping out my only rays of hope, but don't be afraid of that. On this island, overcome with falsehood and illusions, the only thing I can trust is the information she speaks in red. It's my only way across a chasm of hell. Just a single tight rope. Her merciless blood-red blade is the only way I can survive. This isn't just walking on a tightrope, it's like literally walking on the edge of a blade. Of course I'm afraid, because my victory condition is the denial of witches. Then, to use her contrapositive logic, the culprit must be human. But I didn't want to search for the culprit amidst the 18. That's what made me stick to a weak position. I had to claim both that it couldn't be a witch and that it couldn't be one of the 18. Last time, I was unable to understand that, so that's where she hit me, leaving me tethered and defeated. But that's okay. Let her hit me. Let her attack. No problem. Someone said once in an old sword-fighting movie that a good fortress has one and only one intentional weak point. The enemy would gather there. They would be lured there, and that would be where the actual battle took place. As long as I understood my weak points, as long as she wanted to attack those weak points, it was as if I were luring her into launching an attack there. Gauge the distance between us with care, retreating step by step, makes him move forward. The more she recklessly flourished at red, the more chances I would get to strike back. Don't be afraid of the red. Keep her cornered, for she have no choice but to refuse me with the red. No matter how oppressive she speaks in red. That's right. That red itself is the same as fresh blood leaking from her wounds. Nice. Let me hear it. So, what's wrong? First of all, why don't you tell me how many people are on this island total? If you don't, your raven can't cut me up. How surprising it can be this desperate and yet this difficult. One cannot make light of someone putting their life on the line no matter what the error. It's no surprise you're Kinsley's grandchild. The more cornered you are, the bolder you become. Renaud cleared his throat. It appears to be a stalemate. That black tea I worked so hard to make is getting cold, my lady. Renaud, who was supposed to be her ally, roguishly rushed her into making her next move. Berto probably thought she had managed to smile back and appear confident, but she couldn't hide the sweat building up on her forehead. By now, she had completely lost the confident feeling that had allowed her to turn her nose up at the worthless opponent. Of course, she had probably wouldn't be cornered by something like this. She's just being cautious. Until now, I've been inexperienced. I didn't know how to fight, and I wasn't strong enough to be her opponent. However, now that we've reached the third game, she's realized that I'm starting to become more skilled, and she's grown more cautious, thinking every move over carefully. Sure, that's just fine, Beatrice. Sorry to keep you waiting. Are you happy now? Now it's starting to get interesting, huh? Battler, huh? This isn't getting us anywhere. Then should we get to the heart of the matter and go with the usual? The usual, you say? Then by all means. If I don't hear you say that, I guess I just won't feel like it's starting. The first move was mine. Here I go, Berto. Objection. Here I go, Berto. Repeat it. On this island there are only 18 people. If I hear you say this in red, I'll have no choice but to suspect one of the 18. I won't be able to say a 19th person did it, so all doors will be closed to me. However, I believe the culprit definitely isn't one of the 18. There's no way any of those 18 could commit such a brutal murder. I'll say it again. Repeat it. On this island there are only 18 people. I refuse. I won't say why. Oh, I had avoided what would have been the worst dread for me. If she repeated that, I would be faced with two worst choices for accepting the witch or suspecting one of the 18. Like last time, all over again. But Beato hadn't proclaimed my ultimate and greatest weakness in red. She refused to repeat it, even though there was no reason for her not to strike, even though it was a weakness she should have been drooling at. She hadn't sliced me up with red by using that move. It should have been as good as forking a rook and the king. It was a big sign of my advantage. That's right, the culprit isn't one of the 18. I won't suspect anyone. And since the culprit isn't a witch either, it means a 19th person exists on this island. And that's you. A person who has grandfather's mistress for 30 years, has been secretly living in a hidden mansion in the forest for a long, long time. The human Beatrice. That's right. You aren't a witch or anything like it. You're just a human who's been living on this island in hiding for several decades. Did you just call me, the antlered witch who has lived for over 1,000 years, a human? For a while, Beatrice continued to laugh unpleasantly and gloatingly, or maybe spitefully. Are you ready? I'll keep going. Again, repeat it. There are 19 people or more on this island. Beatrice fell silence once again. He probably remained extremely cautious as long as confirming the number of humans on this island might give her some large disadvantage, depending on the situation. The red has already become a foothold for my counterattacks. Well, if we know this, it makes the red very risky for the witch. Well, she could use it to proclaim how many humans there are and then deny these excessive humans of being possible culprits. That would be possible. And then only the 18 would be left over. But if she couldn't repeat this, her Hempel's Raven wouldn't be effective. To break my Devil's Proof, she would need to settle this existence a number of people outside the 18 in red. That's right, she couldn't break the existence of a 19th person unless she uses red. I've closed Berto in, giving her no choice but to speak in red. It really is a way to fight in this witch's game. It's okay to refuse. If you can't say it in red, that means there's a total of 18 plus X people on this island. That X is a pretty massive piece to lose on your first move, right? After all, from now on, all of those tricks that are impossible for the 18 can be claimed with a human X who isn't in the group. This huge piece can break open all the rooms you said were closed because everyone had an alibi. It was just like our chess bishop can cut a thin line through enemy forces as long as there's a slight gap. It could only be effectively used on squares of the same color, but it was very good at controlling territory on the board. Looked like Beato also noticed her current plight. She couldn't just let such an important piece go, especially this close to the beginning of the game. If she pulled out her red treasured sword, it wouldn't be that difficult to save herself from this. But Beato was completely aware that I was expecting it. She was afraid that a careless red truth might end up strangling her own neck. Because, in the first place, a witch is something that ought to be denied in red. Believe. Don't doubt. Witches don't exist. Something like that couldn't exist in this world. They can only exist in the valleys between truth. They have a fragile existence coiled up in those cracks, frantically trying to protect themselves from becoming the brutal winds of truth. And they can only bare exist like a mirage by surviving on falsehood and illusions. In other words, the red, which only witches can use, is a reality that might easily deny their very being. The more they brandish their red words, the more they begin to lose bit by bit the crack in truth inside which they can endure. That's why they don't want to use red words and carelessly lose that crack in truth, which is based on fuzzy information, or illusions, in other words. That's because they understand that they are gradually being cornered. Of course, that bastard will never admit it, because if she did, it would be the same as admitting that she's something that can't exist in this world, like an imaginary number. Don't be afraid, stay strong. I know that she's the one who's really been pierced to the bone. After all, her red treasured sword can be used without a lot of preparation. What's wrong? I'll say it again. Repeat it. There are 19 people or more on this island. I refuse. At the end of Beato's worrying, she took a single deep breath and quietly announced her refusal. I thought she would use it, but Beato refused to speak in red, even though it would cost her victory in the opening part of the game. You refused? Which means that from now on I can create as many fictional characters X outside of the 18 as I want? Do as you wish. I have refused to repeat what you have told me. Isn't it enough for now? The reason for my refusal is? No, I won't tell you yet. Anyway, you'll know soon enough. Still acting tough, I see. Choosing not to use the red is another way of using it. You call that my red treasured sword. A pleasant metaphor. I will use it too. A treasured sword is at its best when it's sheathed. In fact, there are times it can instill even more fear because it is sheathed. That's right. As I fight, I always have to keep in mind whether you might spin everything around with those red words. It's something pretty serious. And there are also times when you make things pretty tough by refusing to repeat after me. Those times I can't tell if you can't repeat because my guess was right, or if you're just misleading me and letting me flounder about. If you think of it that way, yeah, that's a sheathed treasured sword. So what? If I'm going to push you off a cliff anyway, best to let you climb a bit higher first. We have still barely begun. Much is left to come. I resign from this challenge. Go and get drunk on your fate victory for now. But only for now. Okay. It would be quite funny if she just killed herself on the first night now to prove that she isn't the culprit. Practically speaking, the early part of the game ended with her being a sore loser. Even though I can't relax my guard at all, the tension didn't fade one bit, till I was greeted by the sound of Renault's applause. Spectacular, Battler Summer. Perhaps you started this game with an advantageous development. Who knows? I still don't know whether I've taken a piece by my move, or whether she guided me into taking it. After all, knowing you probably know I'm being led into a trap, and that clapping is just you mocking me openly, right? How could you think that? I am innocently celebrating your ability, which has enabled you to take one shot at my lady, even though it is only the first round. In any event, my lady is a person who is quick to become arrogant. I believe that a little encouragement that this can be good medicine every once in a while. This butler of yours sure has a vicious tongue. He does, doesn't he? Sometimes he ticks me off as well. Why my, how incredibly rude of me. Well then, my lady Battler Summer? My lady Battler Summer? Or would you like some more black tea? The game has still barely begun. Please allow me to prepare all the tea and snacks needed to adorn the game. I ask that you continue your game without any reservations. I will. Let's move forward. Now is when it really starts. Very well. Let us advance the clock. Renault, black tea, please. Certainly. How about a cookie? I don't need one. Give it to Beelzebub to keep her happy. Remain silent for now. While listening to the sound of the demon butler pouring the tea, the witch closed her eyes slightly and fell silent. For some time she was deeply lost in thought, but eventually a roguish glint came into her eyes. Decided on the victims? Very well. Why don't I inform you now as to why I refused to speak a red during the first move? What? Bring it on! Show me what you've got. Yes, that piece was big enough that I would hate to lose it. It may be hasty, but allow me to make my move. I won't use the red, but from here on, Rosa will explain on my behalf. Listen. Okay. I see, we are back here. Well then, I would say that's a good point to stop now though. With our first battle with the witch, and then next time we'll probably get these 6 sacrifices. I will probably adjust my predictions a bit, but we'll see. We'll see. For now, have a good night, and feel free to tell me how you think the recording is at best. Now then, have a nice night. Bye bye.